Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Menlo Park, the joint session of the Menlo Park City Council and Atherton City Council meeting for today, September 24th, 2019. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to real quickly actually allow our guests to introduce themselves, and I'll go ahead and introduce our guests. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Mayor of Atherton, the Honorable Bill Widmer.
As you heard from Ray, my name is Bill Widmer, and I'm currently serving as the mayor. And Rick, can you introduce yourself?
Rick DeGolia, Vice Mayor of Atherton.
We don't have microphones, so we have to push. Carrie Weiss, council member.
Elizabeth Lewis, council member.
And I'm Mike Lempress, also on the council.
George Rodericks, City Manager.
Thank you so much. I'll go ahead and allow our team to do the same.
Drew Combs, council member, and this is Daly.
And Starla Robinson, city manager.
Cara Silver, assistant city attorney.
Excellent. And so I think, as in any meeting, we're going to have comment cards. So for council, so if you're a member of the public and you have something to go ahead and share this evening, if you could please go ahead and fill out a comment card for that, provide it to our city clerk, who didn't have the opportunity to introduce herself, Ms. Judy Heron, over in the corner, so we know to go ahead and have you and give you the opportunity to speak. This is sort of an open working session, the way we're going to do this, and so we're going to go ahead and introduce a topic. If there's a staff report, allow staff to go ahead and provide us some information or background on what's taking place, and then we'll just go ahead and open it up to the councils to jump in. But at the outset, I wanted to thank Mayor Widmer. Back when we were doing, that's not me, back when we were doing, every year we've all had the opportunity to throw at that first pitch of the Little League. And this year we did that. He threw a strike, which is a great thing. And when we had the opportunity to talk at that day about doing this and getting together to share and figure out ways that we could work together more closely. We certainly share borders, but we share a whole lot more than that in terms of using each other. Using the downtown, our school districts. People going back and forth. We have so many common things that we can do together, and things that, and frankly, in the interest of the taxpayer, a great opportunity to go ahead and combine resources to combat problems here between our jurisdictions. Please, Mayor Widmer.
So one of the key things that we thought was very applicable was, for example, there are problems like traffic and other issues that are really not jurisdictional, but they're regional issues. And I think it's important, and we both have agreed, that it's important that we have these types of meetings and even follow-up, hopefully, to the meetings so that we can work together on presenting a united front and also, solve the problems, because one jurisdiction can't fix a major problem. So I appreciate Menlo Park giving us the time and working with us on that.
Excellent. All right, so the first item we have this evening to discuss is review and discuss collaborative policing efforts and activities. So I think what I would do is, and Mr. Robinson just came back from vacation, so looking at her and Mr. Rodericks, go ahead and sort of brief us on where we are now, and then we can go ahead and talk on what's on the horizon. But I do know that there is talk right now of, here in the city of Menlo Park, we have a discussion taking place around an emergency operations center. And we've had discussion taking place with our with the fire district with whom we share. And I think you all have had that discussion taking place somewhat. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around that. And then we could talk about how we're thinking about that, and then just generally open it up for ideas about how we would start to perhaps combine the strength of our cities around that and other issues. Mr. Robinson.
Oh, we do not have a prepared staff report tonight, but I think both of the police chiefs are present and could elaborate on existing EOCs and the need for more elaborate EOCs, and then also, and probably more focused on this agenda item, just where we are with traffic enforcement and what tools and opportunities we have available and how we could collaborate on traffic enforcement.
Mr. Rocker, I see you're shaking your head yes, but I think we should yeah. Either one, whatever's more comfortable. Or actually, we have this open mic too, so. Yeah. I know.
This one,
Oh, you want that one?
either one.
This one will work.
Share one on the camera. Good evening, Dave Bertini, Chief of Police for the City of Menlo Park. Welcome to Menlo Park, to our Atherton neighbors.
Hi, Dave. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Steve McCulley, Chief of Police for Atherton. I've been there for 2.5 years. And during that time, had a great working relationship with Chief Bertini as commander and as chief, which is an example of the relationship we have with chiefs throughout the county. And the county that I come from didn't have this closeness and cooperation, so it's been extremely productive for all of us.
Right, and to the point about the EOC, we've been looking at our EOC facility for many years now. Currently, it is a small conference room in the basement of the City Hall where the police department is. It is quite inadequate for what it needs to be. So we are in discussions with both the fire department and our other partners of a possible co-EOC or some other facility where we could all come together. As many of you know, the fire district at one time had a larger facility down off of Willow, and that was a facility that was a multi-agency, a MAC, multi-agency collaboration center, which has now been, it's defunct. The property was the property was purchased, and that EOC or that MAC is no longer in operation. And that was a kind of a great opportunity for us to come together when that was open. Now we're kind of looking for a replacement. So it is something that we are, in fact, in discussions with and trying to look at what the options are for an EOC.
And same for Atherton. As you know, our new civic center is being under construction, so our council chambers will serve as our EOC. And we've been in the same conversations with the fire district about having some sort of mutual. And even with mutual, I think it's important to still have the capability within your own town to have your own EOC, but then send representatives or have that connection with the multi-agency one.
And just some of the examples of the collaboration we already have, just like the chief said, San Mateo County, I've worked here for 32 years in police work in San Mateo County. We're like no other county in the state. The type of collaboration we have between our cities, all the chiefs, we actually have a monthly meeting with the chiefs. The commanders have monthly meetings, and we collaborate constantly on all facets of law enforcement, whether it's traffic, emergency preparedness, homeless issues. There's a myriad of things that we collaborate on. So we really have that already in place with the collaboration. One of the examples was last year there was a demonstration by Menlo Atherton students. We knew that was going to happen. It was a short notice. Within a week, we had to come up with a plan, and we worked very closely with Atherton PD. They were in our EOC when that happened to make sure that the kids were provided safety for their First Amendment right to go out and protest about gun safety. It was after one of the unfortunate shootings that occurred. And that's an example of the type of collaboration that already exists between the agencies.
Do we have
I
any?
think if I can just add, schools are probably one of the most common areas where we do work together. There may be city limits, but they don't limit our cooperation between MA and Encinal, and your SRO happens to be married to one of our reserve officers, works closely with ours because they have to have that connection. And so schools is probably one of the most common areas that we come together. But regardless what it is, whatever incident it is, knowing each other personally, going to lunch, having meetings, we get along well. And so we're ahead of the curve there and getting things done.
Thank you. Do we have any comment cards on this item, Ms. Aaron? No? Okay, so I guess now would be the time to go ahead and open it up for questions from council members. I will pass the mic to you first, Mayor Whitmer, and see if there's anyone on your side who has anything to ask.
Questions for either the chief?
I do.
Can you explain a little further on a multi-agency EOC and how a multi-agency EOC would trump Office of OES? So why would a multiple jurisdictions, South County EOC be necessary?
It does not trump OES. If you look at the ICS system, NEMS, SIMS, it's actually its own facility, and it is something that is made for different agencies to come together locally, but it would be supporting the OES would actually support us at the county level, because that's the area EOC would be the county OES. So it's just another part. And where it becomes advantageous for us is if we have, our jurisdictions are so close together, we have incidents that affect numerous jurisdictions or functions, fire, police, public works, and to be able to get them all into the same room is really helpful in mitigating whatever that incident is. So it doesn't trump anything. Yeah.
So we have had a number of exercises at our EOC, the one that is now no longer in existence. The new one will be a much more robust OEC system, be built and well-designed. In terms of the EOC, I think Atherton's pretty focused locally. Since we don't have any businesses, there's a different dynamic than where you have businesses, and we're prepared to pretty much be isolated, right? And that's when we get together in the EOC, that's our focus, is how to take care of those small neighborhoods where there really is good communication. Now, my general impression of the departments is that they work very cooperatively together. I guess I would have the question for you, if there's anything you think from a policy perspective would be worth us looking at and doing something together or exploring something together. I know the one area, I don't know where your council is, but that we've talked about and we will have on our agenda is on the license plate readers, and we've deployed, a firm has deployed fiber throughout the town, and part of the deal with them was that we would have approximately 10 locations in the town where we could have cameras or some other electronic connection, and that would certainly not solely be focused on police needs, but that would be a big piece of it.
Right.
And we haven't had that discussion yet, but I think that's on the agenda this fall.
So we have had the discussion about license plate readers, and Chief Bertini and Councilmember Carlton and I dealt with that issue about 3 years ago?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So we did deal with it. Yeah, and then we reviewed it. And so basically what we did was we do have license plate readers in town in select locations, but we have a policy by where after a certain amount of time that information needs to be destroyed. And we looked at that real closely, and then also looked at the data sharing component as it related to those readers to go ahead and protect privacy rights. We're proud of that policy. It's worked. It's been reviewed since then, and we'd love to share it with you all to take a look at. So the other thing that we're looking at right now, that Chief Bertini, that it hasn't come to council yet, but might be of interest, is the drone policy that's going to be coming to us soon. And if you wanted to give us a preview on that, because it might be something that you all might be interested in as well.
Sure. Yeah, we're going to be coming to council in November for a study session on a city drone program. Although it'll be managed by the police department, it's actually for the entire city, and it's very similar to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mountain View had something similar come to their council, and we looked at what they're going to be doing with this technology that is available to everybody today, and just saw the advantages of having a drone program for not only the police department and police activities, but also whether it's public works or transportation, or the arborist, to take a look at trees. I mean, there's all sorts of different aspects and applications to a drone program that we're going to be looking at and we're going to be exploring with City Council. Now, with that, obviously, there's always the question of privacy, And we're going to talk about those things, and we're going to talk about people's concerns about, whether they want, the police having drones but in this day and age and where we are here in Silicon Valley, I mean, we're at the center of technology, and not to parlay technology into better, more effective, safer public safety seems like a sin to me. So that's why I think it's important that we try to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, and I'll share. We put it on. I've committed to Chief Bertini to put it on the agenda for two reasons. One, three. So one, I think we can deal with the privacy issues and talk about that and have an engaged public debate. Two, with the traffic impacts that we have today, it's become increased. I can foresee that we all have increasingly difficulty getting our police to places, especially at high speed. And then really that third reason is with the increased risk that we look at in terms of wildfire and other hazards, for them to be able to have that available as we go ahead and figure out our best response to that, not just from a fire district, but from a municipal perspective. It seemed like the time was right to go ahead and engage in that discussion. The outcome of that's going to depend upon the good work that we do, but it's certainly something that we'd love to talk with you all about, sharing that common border, and especially with the amount of foliage that you all have. Mayor Widmer.
So, as we mentioned, we had already had plans for building an EOC before this came along. But one of the things that we're doing for emergency preparedness is we have a very robust ADAP program, which is our disaster preparedness program. And many of your citizens participate in it. And we work very closely with the fire district, and the chief out of his budget funds things for that. It seems more or less silly to me that on some streets that are shared, such as Valparaiso, Laurel, Encinal, that a jurisdictional line has been set, and so those areas have been broken apart. And so I guess the question is, it would make sense that y'all would participate with us to push for tying those together where it makes sense on those streets. But also, I don't know if your department actually funds a Menlo Park disaster preparedness group. It seems that with many of your citizens joining over into the ADAP program, and of course then we all participate in each other's drills, it may make sense, for increased potential funding in that, and trying to raise the visibility of that program so it becomes a little more robust. And we could work together with you on that.
And I'm familiar with the ADAP program, and we're actually looking at that right now. We're looking at how it works in Atherton, and having staff kind of look to see whether that's feasible to include Menlo Park or to do something similar to that. We do, since we're unique and we have one fire department for 3 cities, right, in the fire district. And a lot of times the fire district has kind of taken the lead in disaster preparedness and CERT. And I know there's a lot of CERT members both in Menlo Park and in Atherton. And I think, for me, I think CERT should be the tip of the spear, because in a true disaster, a major earthquake, it's going to be neighbors relying on neighbors, because there's just not enough of us to go out and deal with everything. So I think CERT is something that we should all be really kind of pushing as far as that.
So I was going to go ahead and open it up to our side. So yeah, Councilmember Carlton.
So a few years ago, when we were talking to the council, we had spoken with POC people about having a kind of CERT, a business CERT, so that when you had the 9 and basically the city's on its knees for a while, the restaurants knew exactly, we're going to take our food to this church, we're going to take our food to this place, because otherwise it's just going to go bad, and how the businesses could also be part of that emergency program. And we started to set it up, and then it kind of got circumvented by something else going on, and I don't know what happened to it. But do you know if there's any plans to move that forward?
Well, I think that was a large concern of former Mayor Peter Otake. I think that was one of the things he was trying to spearhead. And I know there was some meetings that had gone on to create an entire new program, something like CERT, or it would be called BERT, Business Emergency Response Teams.
Yeah, I went to those meetings, but
Right.
then I don't know what happened.
Right, and that was something that was happening with the fire district. That's certainly something we could re-explore.
It's something I think that would be good to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see us move forward, at least with some of the more critical businesses that might want to get involved.
Sure.
It would be excellent to get a report out at council about that, because
Absolutely.
I'm a council member and I never heard of it.
I can actually dig up and provide you, Peter, and have some of the notes from the previous meetings that we had a few years ago.
Just as a reminder, we are trying to tape this or video graphic the meeting, and so if everybody could just be careful about speaking into the mic and turning on their microphones.
Excellent. And so is your city clerk with us today? I think we may have neglected to yes. Nice to meet you, Anthony. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and see, is there anyone here who has any other questions for the chief on our side, the chiefs? All right, so I'm going to ask the $64 million question. It's going to be a while before we probably get an EOC up and operating. So we'd love to use yours in the interim.
The current one or the new one?
The new one, yeah. So I'm looking at the chief, and so we've been looking at the dollar amounts on that, and we obviously want to build one, but it may be a while. And so I just kind of sprung it on you, and you guys can think about it.
Right.
But and Chief, you want to go ahead?
Right. At this point, we do have an EOC. It's a functioning EOC. It's just not adequate, is what the issue is. So, and I know Chief Coley just told me theirs is 2 years out. So actually, they would probably be using our EOC if
We have
necessary.
a new temporary.
Right, temporary one. Right. So.
Yeah, so my whole point is, and when we're looking at that kind of layout over that period of time for two cities our size, does it make sense to go ahead and look at taking our tax dollars and putting them to best use, if there's a way to do things collectively, especially when you think, as Councilmember Carlton was saying, you have a downtown. We have a downtown. You guys don't. But in an experience like this, you're going to require coordination between downtown and private citizens to get people supply, to have places for people to meet, to figure out how to coordinate activities. So it may make sense. I'm just throwing it out there for the time being. That we may, if you guys are interested in having that discussion, I might be interested to have our city managers talk about that in the interest of the taxpayer dollar.
Your taxpayer dollar.
Right. Well, I mean, no, I would expect that it would be a discussion both ways.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
I think any collaboration we can do is going to benefit both cities.
Yeah.
And even if we decide not to formally do something, anything we move forward is going to be a benefit. So I think it's great that we're meeting now. I think we should continue this, and I think that's a good idea. If we can help, let's talk about it. We certainly, I think, will be interested in talking.
Excellent. All right.
Just a quick question, and this would be to the city managers and to the chiefs of police. Would the configuration or the size of our proposed and under construction EOC be adequate to combine both jurisdictions in that type of emergency, and with all of the layout and everything? Because we kind of shrunk that environment quite a bit.
And when you ask, are you saying temporarily or long-term?
No, I mean long-term, right?
Well, it could be a
Longer term?
long-term discussion, or it could be
Yeah.
a temporary discussion. The question for
Until
us is,
yeah.
we have if you look at our capital improvement program, we have quite a bit of layout in that over some time period, and there will be in the short term, either we'd have to figure out a funding source, or figure out if there was a way to do something creative with a
I see.
partner, at least for an interim time period.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't understanding, temporary or long-term.
Yeah. I think it would depend on the openness to it from both the chiefs and the stakeholders. But I think it's smart to start that discussion and have that discussion and explore it either way. If it makes sense that something could be done long-term where it was more bang for the buck and the departments coordinated, or if it was something that just made sense in the short term. Mr. Weiss.
Thanks, Rick.
Sorry.
No, no worries. A little bit of a question because unfortunately, active shooters have become more common. And since we're kind of in South County and traffic is an issue, and you never can figure when something occurs, have we been working the South County communities more so with the direction of Santa Clara County units? Because I know that we have problems with communication between the jurisdictions. If something did occur in South County, let's say, for example, at Stanford Mall, a school or something like that, do we have the ability to communicate and get resources from Santa Clara County at the, push of a button?
And the answer to that is yes. We actually don't have communication issues with Santa Clara County. We have their police department frequencies in our police cars and on our hand radios. So there is a seamless communication. It's with the fire department that we don't have communication. And that's interoperability has been an issue since it came out in 9/11 about that problem. But when it comes to law enforcement, we all have access to each other's channels.
And when it does come to fire, we may not have direct communication, but you have a field command post. So I have a commander right there with their radios, their lingo, and that's what we rely on in the field. The Chiefs Association just sponsored violent shooter training for all agencies county-wide. Next month, we're hosting a first drill at Menlo College, which the chief officers will be involved, the same with the fire department. And then in the spring, Menlo High School, we're doing a full drill like we did at Menlo College or Menlo School a couple years ago. Again, it's going to involve not only Menlo Park PD, but CHP, Sheriff's Office. And so we are continually doing those drills.
Thank you.
All right, before we end this item, and I'm going to pass it to Mayor Widmer to lead the next, I just want to ask, is there a question we should have asked you?
Well, I think there was a question about traffic and collaboration, and I can very quickly just say that we collaborate on traffic enforcement also. We have countywide OTS grants, Office of Traffic Safety grants, where we have operations where we have officers from all over the county get together and they focus on a certain type of violation in a certain area or city, and that it gets spread around the county. So we already collaborate for traffic enforcement.
Thank you. Any follow-up on that from anyone? Mayor Widmer, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the second topic, and one of the things that we thought about discussing even way back in March when we were throwing out the first balls, was the traffic issue. So as you know, as we all know, as council members, traffic is on the lips of many of our constituents. That's what we hear about, traffic, and we hear about noise and other things, but those are at the top of the list. And it would be worthwhile, we thought, especially with all the construction projects that are going on, and y'all just having released your traffic plan, which I saw was on the web this past weekend, if we could discuss ways and what you're doing and ways that we can work together to try and mitigate the traffic, keep it flowing properly, whatever, because that is something that we've spent a lot of time at our council discussing. So I guess from there, I don't think there's a presentation, but if you have your public works person here, they could just do a quick overview on your plan. And
we'll have Justin Murphy is our public works expert, but he's also our deputy city manager. And while he wasn't prepared to give a presentation on this tonight, I'm sure he'd be glad to share a couple of thoughts. And I believe that both the chiefs will also have some thoughts on this. And Justin is bringing Nikki Nagaya, who is our acting public works director.
Great. Good evening. This is the first time in my 23-year career of Menlo Park and Atherton being together, so thank you for doing this. So as our city manager mentioned, I'm a deputy city manager / public works director, but my transportation expert is next to me, Nikki Nagaya. So I believe one thing that was referenced was the release of our transportation master plan. It was an open house online. Happy to go through that a little bit. It's been a couple years in the works. We're hoping to wrap that up in the next couple months. One thing I could say about that plan is that we're looking not just within Menlo Park's jurisdiction, but with our neighboring communities. So that's, we do recognize kind of the regional aspects of transportation. Another key thing that I'd like to highlight is our Safe Routes to School program. We've been collaborating with Atherton, Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, and all the various school districts, and that got launched this summer, and so we're very excited about that. So those are two big things. Another big thing from a transportation perspective has to do with developments and review of EIRs, and so we're also in the process of preparing a number of EIRs, and again, coordinating with your staff on the release and review of those documents. So that's kind of a quick overview. Happy to field some specific questions.
So, I have one quick question. There are EIRs that we review, and we identify issues and mitigation in those. And our experience on some of the projects was that, of course, some of the mitigation items that have the need for funding, well, the funding would go to yourselves, and we talk to the contractors that are development agencies, and they say, well, we're working with Menlo Park. And so in many cases, especially some of the projects that have been somewhat near here, there haven't been the opportunity to really pursue some of the mitigations that we thought that maybe we should have been able to. Can you comment on that? And do you have an idea of perhaps a way that that could be addressed jointly and taken care of?
Sure. So we'd be happy to chat further about if you have particular examples that where mitigation measures were suggested but not incorporated into the documents. But a couple recent projects that come to mind where we collaborated closely with staff for the Station 1300 project, which is on the corner of El Camino Real and Oak Grove Avenue, and then spans almost all the way to Glenwood. And so we're coordinating closely on a number of mitigation measures that are identified in the EIR, and we're collecting fair share contributions to projects in Atherton that will hold on our books until the time that you may desire to see those projects move forward. So they wouldn't fully fund the construction, but would contribute, the developer would contribute towards those projects in order to see them move forward. So I can think of a few examples where we've done that, but again, if there are particular issues or problem spots that we need to focus on, we'd be happy to talk further about those.
Pardon the interruption, but we do have a public comment on this item.
Okay, then we can go ahead and call up the public comment speaker at this time.
Lydia Lee.
Hi, my name is Lydia Lee, and I run a Facebook page called Bike Menlo Park, and I have been on the city's Complete Streets Commission for a few years now, and before that, the Bicycle Commission. So I would consider myself a pretty fervent bicycle advocate in Menlo Park, and I also live on Spruce Avenue, which is at the sort of north end of El Camino, in between Menlo Park and Atherton. So I feel like I have a number of vested interests here to come and speak before you. So I would say that until about a year ago, even though every time the idea of bike lanes on El Camino came up, I was always shaking my head personally. I thought it was a good idea maybe in theory. In practice, I really wasn't sure. It just seemed totally out there and just super scary to even think about venturing out there. So, but I would say more recently, I am here to say that I think it's not just a good idea theoretically. I think it makes really good sense in practice. And I was on El Camino today on my bike, so I'm practicing what I preach. There are a few reasons for this. First of all, I think the other routes, the alternative routes that people use right now, have just gotten much more dangerous. They're cut through traffic. People don't stop at stop signs. It's just much more, I think it's just scarier to be on those routes now. So what might have been the quiet, safe route that was the alternative is no longer the case. Secondly, lights on El Camino are timed right now to get traffic through. And so as a bicyclist, you can take advantage of that, and it makes a big difference if you're trying to get from point A to point B in a hurry. You are very visible out there. There is space right now as we speak for a bicyclist in that shoulder. And then you also have dedicated left turn lanes. That makes a big difference for a bicyclist. If you know that you have a place where you're going to wait in line your turn like everybody else and make that left-hand turn and not have to look around for what everybody else is doing, you feel much more comfortable even though you're mixing with traffic. And then I guess I would just say from my personal experience today, I was thinking about how to get from Trader Joe's back to my house on Spruce. And so I could have taken Oak Grove and made a turn on Oak Grove and kind of wended my way that way. But I had this bike basket here, and it was literally full with groceries. I had a carton of eggs on top. I had a huge baguette coming out. I mean, it was full, and I needed to get those eggs safely back home. And so I thought, what is the straightest, most straightforward way to do that? I'm like, no potholes, I've got a straight route, people can see me. I might have to stop, but I can see a long way when I have to stop. And, I needed to get those eggs back home for my son so he could make chocolate cream pie today. So, I was not a chicken in this case because the eggs were driving me. But in this case where you've got a chicken and egg solution, if you make it happen, I guarantee you'll see people out there because they're there already. So thank you so much.
So we talked about a little background for you all that I think you'll find interesting. We talked about as a city bike lanes in El Camino. Was that 3 years ago? 2 years ago? Might have been. But at the time, the conclusion, I'll speak for myself, that I reached was Menlo Park doing it by itself isn't a plan, because what happens is you dump people into bad situations for a stretch of, but Menlo Park and Atherton and Palo Alto, if you can create a network that's actually safe, that people can go places, then you're looking at something that is very, very interesting. And so if that was something that your council was interested in looking at, I'd suggest a joint subcommittee to explore that, to see what that looks like. I'll tell you at the time, when we reached out to other jurisdictions, there was an interest in doing it, or at least that's what was conveyed to us. So that conversation started to end. Anyone else on our side want to speak before we pass it over? Councilmember Nash.
Just, Councilmember Lewis and I have spoken a few times about bike lanes on El Camino, and I will turn it over to you, but I'm wholeheartedly in favor of it and would love to serve on a subcommittee.
I appreciate the comments from the resident who is out there in the experience of it all, and I know exactly where Spruce is at El Camino, and she's absolutely right. The straightest line to get from point A to point B is down El Camino. And to even include Redwood City, if possible, through Atherton, through Menlo Park, into Palo Alto. Palo Alto gets a little different because they've got other things going on down there. But in 2013, I was inspired by a presentation that was given at the Grand Boulevard Initiative when I was attending that by a traffic consultant called Jeff Tumlin, and he talked about the traffic flow, that if you, sometimes more lanes does not necessarily mean faster progress, especially in kind of an urban congested area like we have with Redwood City, Atherton, and Menlo Park. But the reduction of lanes and the throughput is faster and more efficient, and to create protected bike and ped lanes is really the way to go for the Grand Boulevard concept along El Camino. I was fortunate to have a couple of council members from Redwood City and a couple of council members from Menlo Park join us to in a presentation to all of our jurisdictions. And so we had it at Holbrook Palmer Park, and it was a great public event. But that was in 2013, and we had lots of resistance from residents and other people at the time of the concept. But we planted the seed, and it is, in my opinion, an idea whose time has come in this day and age with all the construction that's going on in Menlo Park and the traffic and the on-site parking spaces on El Camino really is a time that has passed because it's dangerous and all of that. And so if that was just a clear cut straight away with protected and beautification also of how that would work, I think it would be a benefit. And bicyclists and pedestrians will come. I see people taking their lives in their hands, bicycling down the little narrow easement on El Camino through Atherton, and elderly people using paddle bikes, for exercise going up there, and there's just not room. So that's, a vision, and it's a long-term vision. But I'd love to study it more with and be collaborative with Menlo Park. Okay.
Yeah, if I could, just getting a little bit off bicycles, something else I'd like to talk with you all about, which basically I said that there's two issues that I think are important for us, and I'm sure for you. One of which is we're beginning to look at traffic calming measures. We're beginning to think about a traffic management plan. I know you have some experience with that. It would be silly for us to be doing something that's not consistent with where you're going. It just feels like that's a place where we need to communicate more and where I think we could learn from your experience. I don't know what we're going to do. We've just begun the process, but I think it's important that we have the conversations about that, and that it be one that goes back and forth so that we're not doing things that are inconsistent, which I could easily see us doing.
I think that so I think our subcommittee could sit down with whomever on your council so designated to talk about our lessons learned. But in the actual reality, we can talk about from a policymaking perspective. Our staff's been amazing through that process, through a robust engagement process to try to get that done. But would love to go ahead and sit down and share that with you all. We have been attending the Manzanita talks, which have been great, but we've gotten to the point now where it's okay, now what's the plan? And I think that's going to have a major impact of the fruitfulness of it. The crux of it, where it's ending up right now, is what will a private-public partnership look like? In other words, are we going to get the public on those private buses or not? And how would that really come about? Otherwise, we agree that we should have some sort of system, but where the bus is going to come from, and if the buses are just already those that are in operation through the public agency, I don't think that was what we were shooting for in starting that process. But that's starting to happen now, and in good faith, the private sector has been there throughout that process, and there's some good technology to help support that. But we need to all sit down with them and get that figured out, that last mile, really pushing to get that agreement in place. My guess is it's going to happen in sub-local pilots, not the whole Manzanita all at once, but there'll be sub-local areas that they'll start with to show that it can actually work, and then they'll expand it out.
And from our standpoint, one of the things we're looking at is, that's all great, and we'd love to talk with you about that, but we're looking at whether we should distinguish the goals of our traffic depending on the nature of the street. Neighborhood streets for the folks to be on safety and traffic calming, whether arterials maybe the focus is on throughput or something like that. We have that kind of a conversation, which would have direct impact on Valparaiso and Alton, just on most of the streets that we share. So that's really what I'm talking about. We currently have no kind of traffic guidance, no traffic calming, nothing like that.
Yeah, that's a huge courtesy that you would want to have that discussion with us. We would love to have it with you. I think we're all sort of reaching that moment of critical mass in traffic where we're trying to protect neighborhood streets and in the same token figure out where the arterials are, but also you have people who live on the arterials who aren't happy about you
Right.
pushing the traffic there. So how do you go ahead and do that in a way that makes sense? But at the end of the day, what I always try, I know my personal perspective, and I'd love to hear my colleagues with my personal perspective, is what we don't want to do is what we want to do is protect those neighborhood streets, but then also make it so driving patterns don't change so that people are cutting through here on the weekends, right? People don't cut through our areas on the weekends, and we don't want that to change. So,
Mayor Mueller, just want to pay attention to the time. It is now 5:50.
If I could, because the other issue I wanted to, you guys brought up, but one of the things we're very focused on is approval of projects in Menlo Park, where, from our standpoint, sometimes they're literally on the Atherton border or within 50 yards or 100 yards of Atherton, and it's very difficult to get good input into that process. And our goals sometimes are just differently, and that just may be the nature of the beast. But we'd like to be able to get that input, and just to be, candid, we're told that the input should come through the EIR process, which ends up being kind of where that goes ultimately is litigation. And so we're trying to avoid all that and make sure that we're not headed down that path in any way, shape, or form. And anything we could do to have, good communication in there, recognizing it's your decisions about what you approve and what you don't, but you should be aware of the implications for us and for our goals as a town, which are often different from your goals.
yeah, I mean, love to hear solutions like that. I mean, we face the same problem, frankly, with our neighbors, right? I mean, so.
Not with us, by the way.
Yeah. Not you guys so much. I don't know why that is, but yeah. Yeah, the other bit, but yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so let me address an issue that I think unites both of these, because I really agree. We're struggling with this issue of how to protect our local streets. And we haven't gone down the traffic calming route, and it would be very beneficial to get your experience. We know what that experience is, not from a policy perspective, because we all drive to Menlo Park. So we experience the traffic calming devices. We just haven't really implemented it in our town. So from a policy perspective, I think your experience would be really helpful to us. A big difference between Atherton and Menlo Park is that you have many residents who can walk to the grocery store or walk to different destinations. We don't have any. I mean, there's a few that can walk to Menlo Park and benefit from that. Those that live off Valparaiso pretty much, or in the general vicinity, but the bulk of residents have to drive, either to Menlo Park or Redwood City for groceries or for whatever items they have to get. So so Elizabeth says they can ride their bikes, and yes, they can, but not probably if they're over a certain age, which many of them are. And I've heard from many people that, they're really worried about the policy decision of changing El Camino Real from a 3-lane road because it's going to adversely impact their ability to get around. And there's lots of other people that are concerned about that more because they're going as fast as they can down El Camino because it's a major road for them, state highway. And how we balance that is a really important issue. And I'm not sure what the right answer is. I heard the resident in the public comment. I think that makes lots of sense. If we could have protected bike lanes without eliminating the third lane on El Camino Real, I think it would be great, but I don't know that that's possible. I don't really know how that's possible. So it's a big issue that we haven't really dealt with.
It's something, so I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think it's something that if the two cities were looking at it together, that makes it a lot more palatable in order to look at.
Yeah.
Councilmember Carlton.
I agree with you. If we can do it without eliminating the third lane, that would be tremendous. If we lost that third lane, El Camino would become gridlock. I think we did a study a few years ago, 82% of the traffic is pass-through traffic. generally that means people that the distance is too far for them to move from car to bicycle. So if we lose a whole lane, that would really negatively impact that road. However, I would like to see if we can do the bicycle, that would be fantastic, because that obviously facilitates at least some improvement on the street.
Just a quick follow-up. I think that the traffic engineers could look at the entire width, and I think that some of the lanes could be narrowed a little bit and still have 3 lanes, because they're quite wide. And one of the things about this traffic consultant, Jeff Tumlin, he indicated that, when lanes are narrowed, people go slower and they're more cautious. The problem I have with our 1.6 miles of El Camino Real is that it is like a 6-lane freeway, and people go 50, 60 miles an hour when they come out of Redwood City, and there's only one stoplight, and they go all the way to Valparaiso, and then they get stopped, and then it's gridlocked from there on into Menlo Park, because it's only 2 lanes with parking on the side. So it can be studied, and I think we deserve to study it. And I could be completely wrong. You could be completely wrong about the impact. I'd like to get another presentation by this traffic consultant. I have to, just real quickly, the Office of Sustainability of San Mateo County heard him and was on the Grand Boulevard Initiative Council, and they paid for him to come and speak at our Tri-City outreach. And so, because they felt it was so important for our residents to really hear this.
Yep. One last comment on this. We cannot forget that we need to also keep our emergency response teams also weighing in on that. But and we've been talking to the fire district. The chief is very open about his position on that, and I'm sure he is with y'all. But we need to also make sure that when vehicles need to get through, that they get through. But more or less from closing, from my standpoint, y'all have been very gracious to host us, and I know you have another meeting that starts in about 3 minutes. So I'd like to just go through some things that I've written down that are follow-up, and then see if you all have something else, and so we can then let you all get on to the meetings that you also have scheduled. But we did talk about the EOC discussions. We need to make you aware of our timelines and have the 2 chiefs and the 2 city managers participate in some discussion on there, and see if there's some areas where either in the short term or longer term we can do some sharing. I believe we both have, I know we do, have a bike pedestrian committee, and I believe that you do too, because I've spoken to some of your people that at least have implied that they're on that committee. Perhaps what we could do is have some sort of liaison back and forth to participate in that. We talked about EIR communication to improve some issues or perceived issues. Mr. Limpris talked about traffic management coordination, so I would expect that perhaps the Public Works, Robert on our side, and your traffic expert possibly get together and explore even further your new traffic plan that you put out that got covered in the almanac the other day. And then also the chief and the city managers should talk about license plate reader policies, just to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel, and understand a little bit more about your drone policy. And I don't know if there was anything else that you identified.
Yeah, so one of the things so my term as mayor is coming to a close, as it does for all of us. But one of the things that I will suggest is that we talk about perhaps in our staff reports on EIRs, prior to EIRs, when we're doing study sessions on development, we could put in a section, what do our neighbors think? What's the input we have from that council, if any? It's a simple thing to just have in the report so we know what that input is. And then certainly as it goes along. So that way, we've taken account of that. I think that's probably something that we can talk about, but I think that it actually makes a lot of sense to do that. And then the one thing I didn't get to share, but the one thing we have learned about cut-through traffic was a lot of that is technology-driven, and we've had to implement certain things to get the technology companies to take streets out of the map. Some things that are actually kind of a little ridiculous, but we had to do, and it worked, and they complied, and so our staff can share that with you. But it had a noticeable effect immediately once we got that accomplished.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so, yeah. So,
I'd just say the other thing, I mean, I think it's great that we've done this. It sounds like it's the first time in at least 23 years. So we should be sure to do it again. I mean, I think it's 1 hour. It'd be great to do this on an annual basis, to have the connection.
yeah, I think you can. I don't think there's any, there was that continuing where the mayors would get together. It's not the same. I enjoy your company immensely, though. But having us all together, talking about it together.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do. So I think it's great. We look forward to future meetings. Thank you.
For your hospitality.
Thank you. City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 24th, 2019. At this time, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. All council members are present. If we have a study session first this evening, item study SS1, provide direction on downtown parking utility underground project and future citywide underground priorities. If you'd like to go ahead and provide a public comment on this item, if you could go ahead and please fill out a comment card in the back of the room and provide that to our city clerk, Ms. Judy Herron. This time we're going to go ahead and take the presentation from Senior Project Manager Murad Fakhari, who will make the presentation. Fakhri. I said it wrong, didn't I? Said it perfect? All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and member of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to make the presentation on the study session. The item before you is the undergrounding of overhead utilities. With me tonight is Cindy Mickelson with Harrison Associates. Cindy is an expert in everything undergrounding. She was with PG&E for many years as their lead manager for the undergrounding program. We won't hold that against her, but she was with PG&E for a long time. Our presentation will basically follow our staff report that you have seen, and will provide some background and history, and provide discussion on what are the requirements for the Rule 20 undergrounding projects, and then suggest some potential locations that we have identified, and potential selection criteria in how to prioritize these locations. And then we would like to hear feedback from the council whether or not those locations are appropriate, whether or not those criteria are appropriate, any one that we want to add, any one to remove, and go from there. The presentation will be a lot less detailed than the staff report, but it will hopefully provide enough background. The Rule 20 program, which is also the undergrounding, has been around for over almost 50 years. It was established with the order of California Public Utility Commission, CPUC, that ordered all the electric service companies to provide a roadmap in undergrounding their facilities. That was the Rule 20 program. Similarly, the CPUC ordered the communication companies to do a similar undergrounding program. That's a Rule 32, which works in alignment with the Rule 20 program. PG&E was ordered to work with the League of California Cities to identify the amount of allocations that each jurisdiction will receive. Cities and counties receive allocations based on their size, based on their population, based on the amount of overhead utilities that they have, and number of electrical service that they have. Clearly, larger jurisdictions, larger cities and counties receive a lot more than the smaller ones for obvious reasons. Allocations are not real money. These are only allocations. They're not like gas tax that the cities actually receive in real money. These are paper money that are allocated to the cities so they can use it in the future whenever they have a project. In 2011, PG&E requested CPUC to reduce the allocation to local agencies by almost 50%. It's a huge amount. The reason behind that was PG&E was behind delivering projects, and they were building up a lot of balance of allocations. In a way for them to bring down those allocations, that was one way of doing it. Unfortunately, CPUC approved it, and all of our allocations was cut almost to half. With a lot of complaints from a number of jurisdictions, in 2017, which was the latest rulemaking from CPUC, they ordered opening an audit of the Rule 20 program for PG&E and potentially looking at making changes to the Rule 20 implementation and process. Rule 20 has 3 sections, A, B, and C. For discussion tonight, we will focus primarily on the Rule 20A. Rule 20A, basically, as I indicated, uses the allocated credits for each jurisdiction to underground their overhead facilities. There's no extra cost to the city. It's all done by those funds. Where does money come from? From all taxpayers who pay PG&E bills. Is a fixed number on your monthly bill that we all pay towards that. So that is used for underground the utilities. One of the bigger advantages of Rule 20A program is once you implement the project with a 20A, other utility companies, telephone companies or cable companies, they have to underground their facility at their own cost also. Now, 20B is similar to 20A in how it works, except you have to come up with your own money to pay for it. The Rule 20 funds, you have to come up with some alternative form of payment to that. And 20C is similar to 20B, but it can be done with a lot smaller projects. As I will talk about the criteria, there has to be minimum length of the project for it to qualify for a Rule 20A program. The criteria we talked about. The project that we identify for undergrounding for a Rule 20A program must meet at least one or more of these 4 criteria. It needs to have a heavy concentration of wires and transformers and so on. It must be within an area that has a high pedestrian and traffic traffic. And it can be in an area of civic interest or public recreation, or maybe a scenic route. Those are qualified locations. It must be on an arterial or major collector streets. The small neighborhood streets are not qualified for Rule 28 program. They have to be, that money has to be spent on major arterials and collector streets. As part of the process, the council will adopt a undergrounding district by resolution or by an ordinance. As I mentioned, the minimum length of a project has to be 600 feet. It must include both sides of the streets. It must include every property within that district has to be undergrounded. Another thing that it cannot pay for are high voltage transmission lines. Those are the very high wires that you see on the poles. We do have them in Menlo Park, throughout the city, in some locations. Those cannot be qualified. They're very, very expensive to underground on their own. And I talked about that in a little bit. As I mentioned, in the past, we used to receive about $260,000 a year annually for our allocations. It was cut down to approximately $135,000 annually right now. As I mentioned also, these are not real money that we receive. They're allocations. They are like frequent flyer miles. You collect them, and then when you have a project, you can use those to build your project. That said, the city has a fairly healthy account balance, the allocation balance. We have approximately $6 million of Rule 20A funds, which is pretty significant. Rule 20A also allows to borrow up to 5 years from future allocations. So if we were to do a project, we could use up to $6.7 million worth of projects. This is all good, right? Except it's expensive to underground utilities. PG&E's estimation currently is for the area, for Bay Area, approximately $1,200 per linear foot of undergrounding service. That is putting the wires underground and also doing conversions of the service to the buildings. That's roughly about $6.3 million per mile. If we were to pay for undergrounding high voltage overhead transmission lines, that's approximately $15,000 to $20,000 or even more per foot of undergrounding. Rule 20, as I suggested, is a primary source. Rule 20A, allocations are primary source, and we would like to do as many projects with that fund as possible, but there are other ways to fund projects. One thing that you can still maintain the benefits of Rule 20, if the community is short of those funds, you can purchase or you can borrow funds from other jurisdictions that have accrued enough allocation that they don't need. And the range of how much you can buy it for, it ranges from 40 to 50 cents. It's that per real dollar for allocation dollars. But it has been purchased for much less than that, and sometimes they sell it for more. But for average, it's about 40, 50 cents per dollar. Because it's a part of the roadway improvement, roadway eligible funds like gas tax, SB1 funds, and others can be used for undergrounding. General fund also obviously can be used. Some agencies have used the special assessment districts. San Diego has done it. San Jose and San Francisco has looked into it, but they haven't implemented it. It is not very common, but it can be done. In Menlo Park, we have been successful in getting a number of locations undergrounded. Of note, the entire length of El Camino Real within the city limits were undergrounded many years ago. Willow Road from Bayfront to Middlefield was undergrounded. Santa Cruz Avenue in the downtown area was done. A number of the cross streets were undergrounded some years ago. The most recent project was done on Hamilton Avenue. That was back in 2005. That was not a Rule 20A project. It was done using a former redevelopment agency, RDA, tax increment bond fund that was used to implement that. And that was the most recent one. Also, majority of Sharon Heights, if not all of it, is underground. It was developed in the 1960s, and the whole thing, all the wires were put underground. So that's a big chunk of the city that's underground already. The current adopted CIP does include 3 projects. One of them, the 2 of them are the renovations of the parking plaza 7 and 8. Those 2 parking plazas are in line to be improved with new paving, new striping, new landscaping, and what have you, like it was done in some other parking lots in the past. The CIP also includes a downtown parking utility undergrounding project. The project that is identified are consistent with the downtown specific plan. It provides aesthetic improvements. It does provide opportunity to do installing electrical vehicle charging stations. It improves, we can opportunity to improve water service so that we can provide better fire service to some of the commercial buildings. This is desired by the fire district. And a number of other improvements. The project is approximately half a mile long. It has about 6 residential and 26 commercial overhead service that need to be converted to underground. It costs approximately $3.2 million. Staff recommend that council direct us to proceed with this approved project and include the other cross streets that was partially undergrounded, as well as the Menlo Avenue. Staff took a stab at looking at a number of locations throughout the city where they're appropriate and can meet the requirements of the Rule 20 undergrounding requirements. The list is in here. We have provided that to you. We look to you to tell us if they're appropriate, if you think there are some that we neglected to include, or there are some that you don't think that should be on the list, period. We looked at three of these locations and looked at them a little more in detail. One that we looked at was Hamilton Avenue from Chilco Street to Marketplace. This segment of Hamilton actually completes the work that was done previously, what I mentioned earlier, from Willow to Chilco. And it has a number of residential services. One commercial service is about a quarter mile long, and it can be done at approximately $1.7 million for the undergrounding work. The next segment that we identified, we looked at, was Middlefield Road. The limits of this project is from southern boundary with the city's boundary with Palo Alto all the way to Ravenswood. There is a small segment of this corridor between Ringwood and Ravenswood that does have overhead high voltage lines. It is shown in green on the plan in front of you. However, one attractiveness of this corridor, there are no services to be underground, to be converted underground. Everything is already underground. So the only thing we need to do is to underground the wires that are already on in that segment. The last one that we identified was the parking plazas 1 and 3. It's very similar to the one that we talked about with the approved project for Plaza 7 and 8. It does provide service to undergrounding a number of those buildings that are facing both Santa Cruz Avenue and Oak Grove, and it does also improve some of the cross streets like University, like Chestnut, and like Crane. It does provide opportunity to install electric vehicle charging stations. It does provide improvement with the water line, and there are some proposed developments that are in that corridor that will also benefit from this project. It's a longer segment. It's approximately 3/4 mile also, approximately $5 million to do the undergrounding work on this project. So we shared with you the list of the locations that we thought that were appropriate. So how do we compare these? How do we evaluate and prioritize them? We have come up with a list of rankings that we like feedback from you, whether or not they're appropriate, or there are other ones that we should be including. Some of the ones that stand out are whether or not they are in the area that high traffic, pedestrian and vehicle traffic, whether or not they provide good ADA accessibility. By removing the poles, you can better provide access there. Visual impacts, how many overhead conversions needs to be done, and whether or not, in this case, the lower number of conversions, the better it is because there's less cost with that. Again, would appreciate input on this. Before I conclude my presentation and open to questions from you, I would like to repeat the question. One request from the council is to direct staff to proceed with the parking plaza 7 and 8 as approved in the CIP and the adjacent streets. Consider the corridors that staff have recommended and tell us if you agree with them or there are any ones that you want to change, add, or remove. And similarly with the priority criteria, whether or not there's anything that we have in there that we should remove and or add. With that, conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions from council?
Yes.
Okay. Kat can go first.
Can you put the slide up where you have the different criteria for how you're choosing the things in the future? I see one that's missing that would be pretty critical. If we're getting ready to put in new bike lanes, new sidewalks, new things like that, I really agree with the governor's dig once policy. Where's that Jackie Spear? I forget. The Dig One policy is critical in saving millions of dollars, and it should be a criteria that we remember that the left hand needs to know what the right hand is doing. And if, for example, we're getting ready to redo the sidewalks on Middlefield, which I've heard rumor of, and put in better facilities for bicycles and this sort of thing, that seems to me the perfect time for us to then talk about putting in the electric lines rather than having to dig it up later. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
In fact, projects that do come with other improvements, such as other infrastructure improvements, roadways, sidewalk, they get higher ranking with PG&E. They get to them a lot quicker than if they were a standalone undergrounding project.
Excellent. I just want to make sure that that gets actually added to that list, please.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Actually, number 3, if you're on the list, ability to combine with other projects, that was the intent. Okay. But we hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nash.
Thank you for the presentation. A question is, when we do the underground district, is that for a specific project, or is that just a general underground district that's created by ordinance?
The district will only apply to the undergrounding work. Whether or not you do it with another project, will we do it a standalone project, that is really not relevant. It is for the undergrounding for all the streets within that district.
And how is a district defined? What I'm wondering is it an undergrounding district for all of Menlo Park, or is it just for a specific area?
What we were suggesting to do were for a specific area, like it was done before, for El Camino, for Willow, and so on. But the city can, and other jurisdictions have done that, where they draw a line in the city's perimeter and say, that's our district. It can be done. It is, I'm going to look to Cindy to help me out here. Yes.
So what a lot of communities will do is they'll create an ordinance, which of course is law, that says if you are in a designated area that is later determined to be a project site, that you will comply, that you will convert, that you will follow the rules. Then they'll create project-specific resolutions. So those would encircle the boundary of what the project's intended to do. So you would couple the two, and you would take the resolution and refer it back to the ordinance that's overarching.
What are the pros and cons of doing it either way?
So on a 20A, you don't usually have as many cons because often the conversions are part of the project cost, and the impact to the businesses or residents is minimal, just hassle of having them there. On projects where the community doesn't choose to include that, because it is a choice, where they want to put that burden on the property owners, the resolutions can easily be challenged in court as forcing them to spend that money, whereas the ordinance, it is much more enforceable. So if you plan to include those costs, the conversion costs for the individual property owners, doesn't really matter. You could probably accomplish it with a simple resolution.
The reason why I'm asking is we will be reviewing the downtown specific plan and Connect Menlo, and so that may influence where we want to underground, and certainly the priority. Mm-hmm. But it also seems like, well, actually, this is getting into. So, is there? I don't want to get into commentary right now. Is there a way we can just include all of Menlo Park and leave it open, or is that not advisable?
So you could do that, and that's been thought about these days lately because of CPUC taking funds and giving it to other communities. So you could create the entire district as one large district. But PG&E won't accept that as a project until you have project boundaries, and that would be a separate, specific one.
Thank you.
Through the mayor, I'd also like to add to that if we were to do a citywide ordinance It would be a really comprehensive project. We would have to figure out exactly which utilities should be undergrounded and what the process for that would be and what type of protest we would want to have, et cetera. And then we would probably have to do a citywide CEQA analysis of that impact. So it may not be something that you'd want to do just to move forward this particular project.
Okay. Any other questions? Can you bring up the slide with what you're asking of us this evening again? I personally, I appreciate the study session, but I haven't really had time to think about the answer to these questions yet. So what I suggest we should probably do is bring it back as a regular item. And then that'll also, because it'll be brief, that way we also can take public input on it, on the presentation at that time, and then make a decision. But this was a great precursor to get the mind thinking about the issue and how we would approach it. Councilmember Carlton?
I agree. However, I do remember reading in the staff report that we needed to create a new district, otherwise we risk losing more funding. And I don't see that on our list of direction. I think it's a no-brainer, although I wouldn't want to speak for my colleagues, to not lose money. Maybe when the staff report comes back, it comes back with a plan to establish that district to that end.
So one of the things that, in fact, I just had a meeting today with PG&E staff, creating a district, even if I don't know what your percentage of thought that 7 and 8 will be the one, but creating the district is not a bad thing because you can then swap it out for a different project if you change your mind, but you get in the queue and you get that protection from CPUC withdrawals again.
Which is why I'm suggesting we put that in and move forward on that in the coming report.
So the presentation tonight was perfect. If we could attach that as a staff report so that people can weigh in on that, and then we can think about it too and come, I think. Anyone have any, does that work for everybody? Yeah, Councilmember Nash.
So has there been any thought about asking the fire department to help with undergrounding utilities, since I believe it would be beneficial and a safety improvement?
I'm not certain if the fire district has been engaged in that conversation. I don't believe they do. I don't think I'm almost certain they do not receive any Rule 20A credits. That said, they could contribute towards some of the improvements.
So I've been told in Palo Alto, but I've been unable to verify this, that in Palo Alto, the fire district the Palo Alto Fire District, obviously different than ours, has been helping with undergrounding for years and years.
Nikki Nagaya, Interim Public Works Director. So I think, as Murad said, we haven't had specific conversations with the fire district about participating generally with undergrounding efforts, but we do coordinate closely. So one place where we see a lot of undergrounding happening today is related to development projects. And so when a new project comes in, particularly within the downtown specific plan area, there's guidance in the specific plan that says utilities should be undergrounded. And so we coordinate very closely with fire as part of those project reviews to make sure that the undergrounding that happens is related to preserving their access to respond in case of an emergency is one of the main criteria that we use as we're developing or doing that development review process. So I think there's certainly interest from fire on that side. We could approach them about general participation going forward as well.
Thank you. Next question is, can we think about installing parking sensors in the parking lots in case we decide to go to a parking management system, and that would be help with the inventorying when we do parking lot undergrounding?
So to collect the data about the occupancy of spaces?
Well, it's more, for example, when you go to Redwood City under the movie theaters, it tells you how many spaces are available.
Right.
And some actually will tell you where the spaces are, I believe.
Right. So we've looked into that type of system for downtown previously. One of the challenges that we have, so in the example of Redwood City, where they have the signs and number of spaces indicated as you approach different parking structures, is that it's a little bit easier to do where you have a structure and a limited number of access points in and out, because the gates will help count how many cars come in, how many cars go out, and then you know how many net spaces are available within the structure. With our parking plazas as they're designed, there are multiple access points to the public streets, and so it's pretty challenging to then, and there's no gates for accessing any of the plazas. So you'd need individual sensors in each of the parking plazas, and the last time we priced that out, it was a quite high number in terms of the cost to install, but we can track that over time if prices come down on the technology.
That would be great, because obviously if we've got the parking lot apart, we might as well install it at that point if we're going to. So if we could do a check on the money, that would be great. And then finally, has there been any discussion about using UUT for undergrounding? I was surprised not to see that on the list.
Utility user tax? Utility user tax can be used if because that's a part of general fund. It can be used, and that's definitely a good eligible use of those funds. If the council chooses to use that would be fine.
Okay. And then also the option that we could remove the temporary reduction in UUT to actually get more funds. I realize that's a longer discussion, but just thought it was appropriate here.
Okay, so I actually do want to so the issue I'm having is just deciding tonight which plazas to proceed with or the corridors. I'm just not ready. But in terms of the proposed priority criteria and recommendation for other criteria, I'm actually totally fine with moving that forward and giving you guys that direction. Is that agreeable? Kat, we can add your piece of criteria to that. Mm-hmm. So, and then what might make sense is to bring it back, these back to us with them ranked. Yes. According to that criteria. So and be candid, the thing I'm struggling with is, do I do parking plazas? So I know I have $6 million, right? Do I do parking plazas 7 and 8, or do I do Middlefield? I don't know. So I don't know if I should tell you 7 and 8 tonight. Mm-hmm. So that's why. But I really appreciate all the work that went into it in the presentation. So thank you. So I think we're set. Thank you very much. Oh, is there public comment on this item? All right, let's go ahead and take public comment on this.
The first speaker is Steve Van Pelt.
Sorry, Mr. Van Pelt. Should have called you up earlier.
No, actually, I enjoyed watching the presentation, and I've tried to really understand this from reading it, and I think I do, and I wish you all the best of luck. And obviously, you're going to use up all the funds pretty quickly on some of your projects downtown. I'm kind of thinking, I want to make sure I really understand this, because the wires we see up on the really tall poles here on Ravenswood and Laurel and Oak Grove, those are all the transmission lines we're talking about, and they have a voltage measured in kilovolts, much akin to the big transmission towers up in the mountains and things, right? Do I understand that right? Because that just befuddles me. But it really looks like if we're thinking about following through on doing something with these tall poles on those streets or Newbridge or something like that, the end result is we're going to underground everything on the lower part of the pole, but in fact it sounds like we would have the whole pole still there with these transmission lines still work up at the very top level and things. And I mean, the cost per foot is like $20,000 or something multiple compared with all of the other things compared to undergrounding this. So, I mean, probably most of our projects would leave those in place. And that just is not a conclusion that I find acceptable, but I don't have a good answer. So I just want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Henry Riggs.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Henry Riggs, 47 Cali Lane. It's been very interesting to hear the presentation tonight and learn the limitations of Rule 20. I can't quite imagine how they came about. I have to say I'm not the only one who is a bit surprised that we would focus our money on parking lots behind buildings to remove utilities rather than on the streets where we live. Particularly, the concern, at least among my neighbors, is that the trees, not just in our immediate neighborhood, but out on Marsh Road, most visibly on Marsh Road, which is our right-of-way from Bay Road to Bayfront Expressway. The trees are just decapitated to avoid, unfortunately, the high transmission lines. I think that is a case of coordination with PG&E and their assignment to the tree pruners. I will say that removing the lower wires on locations other than, I think, our parking lots is of value, since they have grown dramatically in visibility thanks to the massive data cables that are on them. Excuse me. That's quite a difference from the electrical cables of the previous decades. So I would like to recommend emphasis on roadways that were prioritized here in the staff report other than the parking lots, and to include that section of Marsh Road, and certainly would back Ravenswood. I also think it might be worth an effort to lobby the PUC and PG&E to ask, could Rule 20 be reconsidered when a community is a lot more interested in its street foliage, its street canopy, than it is in the criteria that we see from Rule 20. So those are my comments, and I hope it's of some value and we have some flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from my colleagues? With that, we're going to go ahead and end the study session. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and just take a short 2-minute break and then move right in. And introduce our professional staff and colleagues. So down off the dais, we have our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Kara Silver. To her immediate right, we have our City Manager, Ms. Starla Jerome Robinson. Welcome back. To my left, we have Councilmember Catherine Carlton. To my right, we have Councilmember Betsy Nash. To her right, we have Councilmember Drew Combs. And then down off the dais, we have our City Clerk, Ms. Judy Herron. If you would like to speak on an item this evening, if you could please fill out a comment card in the back of the room. Go ahead and write down the item number so that the City Clerk knows where to put you into the agenda, and I know when to call on you. Thank you for joining us. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we're going to go ahead and open the meeting with public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the City Council on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the City Council once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. With respect to our first public comment, the City Council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the City Council cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general direction. And I can tell you in advance the general direction is going to be, please meet with our city manager and with our city attorney. With that, do we have any public comment cards this evening? We do not have any public comment. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm actually going to go ahead and call our first, well, we have a little bit of time, so I'm going to call item N1, authorize a request to San Mateo County Labs, a division of the County of San Mateo, for air quality monitors in the Bellhaven neighborhood. I'm calling this, even though Mayor Pro Tem Taylor is not here, she asked me to take this item first this evening. Is Ulysses here right now? Oh, he's outside on the phone. We'll go ahead and skip this item then. The next item we're going to go ahead then and call it this time is going to be item, so I'm going to move, and I apologize to our commissioners, but because we have a number of people here and calendar constraints, I'm going to go ahead and call item J3 first off the consent item. So if we can go ahead and have a staff presentation on that time, that would be excellent. Actually, does anyone need to hear the staff presentation again? No need to hear the staff presentation again, so let's go ahead and start public comment on the item. No, I know there's public comment. Ms. London.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. I'm very excited to be here on this amazing evening. You guys are about to do something incredible and tangible and real to fight the climate crisis, and I want to congratulate you. At the UN Climate Summit, there was a lot of talk, but people came away, some people feeling like there just wasn't enough action. And you guys are action-oriented, and I just want you to know that this is a wonderful start. To pass the REACH codes, to stop natural gas in our buildings is a huge and wonderful start. So I applaud you. Are we done? No. Is it enough? No. Is there way more to do? Yes, but this is a wonderful start. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Mr. Josh Becker.
Thank you, Josh Becker, Menlo Park resident and advisory board of Menlo Spark. I'm also very proud to be here on this day and very proud of our council and very proud of our city. After 10 days of intense climate activism, we are seeing the opportunity to do something very concrete in a way that will make our city the leader and also save money, importantly, save money for our residents. So I just want to take this moment to really congratulate the council, say how important what I believe this is as a local, state, and national model, and we appreciate your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Our next speaker this evening is Mitch Slomiak.
Mayor and council members, I am so happy to be here as you're poised to pass this measure. 12 years ago, I represented more than 130 of our Menlo Park citizens with the Menlo Park Green Ribbon Citizens Committee. We were all really new at this. We didn't know what the best practices were then. And since then, this city has gotten on the path to complete carbon-free electricity. We're about to get our new buildings to be fully electrified, which means they'll be carbon-free. And I was reminded last Friday why this is really important to do. There were more than 100 high school kids who marched past, down my street, past my house, carrying signs of deep concern about their future and the kind of world that our generation is leaving to their generation. And I just feel more and more that we have to take these measures. They, of course, have to be prudent, but we've got to move as quickly as we can because we owe it to our children and grandchildren to leave them a sustainable world and not a world that is completely going downhill with terrible consequences, which is the path we saw we were on 12 years ago. And now it's heartening to see this kind of action. So as Janelle London said, there is much more work to be done, but this is such an important step. Couldn't be more supportive, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Kristen Duracetti.
So I'm really pleased to be here tonight, and I want to thank you again for your leadership, having served as a former Environmental Quality Commissioner and worked with you on the general plan update, and to see the continued growth, and with PCE, that I know that we've seen so much leadership on these issues, to taking this next step and pushing us forward. And I think in my experience, there's been times where we sort of wondered whether Menlo Park was a leader, and I think that over the last few years we have demonstrated that absolutely we are. You continue to be courageous, and I know that you will continue to take those steps in the future, and I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Matt James.
Mayor and Council, I'm Matt James, and I'm on the board of Menlo Spark also. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for an incredibly brave stand. Across the world, governments are wrestling with how they deal with climate change. It's really, really heartening to know that Menlo Spark is one of the leaders in this. I'm extraordinarily proud to be able to go back and tell my neighbors what has happened here tonight and leave you with Greta would be proud of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Chris DeCardi.
Good evening. I'm on the Planning Commission, but I'm speaking on my own behalf tonight. I was on the Environmental Quality Commission with Mitch Slomiak, with Kristen Duracetti, when you all put the original goal in place for greenhouse gas reduction by 2020. And you all took a stand then as a city council. And one of the things I'm most excited about is the community has stepped up and worked with you to be able to meet that goal and to help you have Menlo Park be a leader in Silicon Valley, in the state, and in the country. This step tonight is another step in that journey. It's fantastic leadership. It will be replicated around the state, and it shows something really important, which is that the pathway to a prosperous, equitable future in communities is by getting out in front and addressing climate change while we can control our destiny. You're showing how that can be done, you're doing it the right way, and you're setting a precedent and a standard for others to follow. I would also say that I'm really proud of your current Environmental Quality Commission. This is dedicated citizens who have spent a lot of time to work with you and a lot of hours in order to help you reach a really good decision for this community. And it's a fantastic example of how citizens step up in their free time to try to make this place a better place for all of us. Thank you for your leadership. We look forward to keeping working with you and to continuing to have Menlo Park be a leader on climate change, equity, a prosperous and healthy future.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Dashiell Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I am a conservation assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. I want to say thank you so much to the staff, consultants, and city council members who are poised to pass this ordinance today. We are in a climate crisis, one that will decide the fate of our species and the fate of the other species who we share this planet with. This law really is groundbreaking. It's trend-setting. I hope it's a model for the rest of this area and throughout the country and the world. But in reality, a law like this should really be normal because this is the expected first step that we can take. And I really appreciate your leadership on this issue, and I look forward to many more rapid steps to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is former State Controller Steve Wesley. And I should say, a Menlo Park resident.
So I'm incredibly excited to be here tonight. I'm one of those rare people who actually grew up in this community. I frequently run into people who say we've lived in this area forever. We moved here in 2001, and I think, my God, we moved here, my family, in 1956. I feel like the luckiest person ever. I'm one of the few people who dedicated my life to energy. When I graduated from Stanford University, I worked at the first Department of Energy in the Office of Conservation and Solar. When I was the state controller, we helped lead an effort in the Clean Tech Initiative, jump-starting what became thousands of companies, including Tesla Motors. The entire world is on fire, not just figuratively, but literally. We've seen some of the largest fires in the planet's history in the Amazon, fires nearly the size of the state of New Jersey. We've seen the worst fires in our history. What the world is crying out for is people like you to stand up and take principled stands of conviction and to make our community a leader. And I wanted to personally come as someone who's not only spent their life in the policy aspects of solving global warming, but as a business person, you've made the right decision. I now run a venture firm in, where else? Menlo Park. We invest in smart energy, smart buildings, smart mobility, and I could not be prouder because what you are doing is the wave of the future. It not only makes political, social, and environmental sense, it makes business sense. 2/3 of all the energy in the world that goes online today is renewable. That number is going to inch closer to 90%. Natural gas is going to be phased out, and the sooner we can do it, the better all of us will be. Thank you for making Menlo Park a leader again. I, for one, feel lucky to have grown up here, but I feel a little luckier tonight to be so proud about this community, and we owe it to you. So thank you all for taking such a forward-looking position.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Mark Jacobson.
Hi, I'm Mark Jacobson. I'm a professor at Stanford University. And I want to congratulate you for making this very important step, taking this important step. It's a role model step for the rest of the world. I develop energy plans for countries and states and cities and towns to transition to 100% clean renewable energy. And of course, home heating and cooking and buildings in general are a big segment of that transition. And we've made a we've made a lot of progress in electrification, in electricity, changing the electric power sector to clean renewable energy, but not so much in buildings. So this is a very important step. I do want to point out, I've actually also built an electric home myself on the Stanford campus 2 years ago, and so I do want to give everybody confidence that once you do that, you will never go back. It not only reduces costs significantly, you avoid the cost of gas pipes, the gas hookup fee was $6,000 alone just to hook up gas to the property. You won't need eventually, if you electrify everything, eventually the laws will change, you won't need carbon monoxide monitors anymore. But no more gas bill, natural gas bill, no more electric bill if you put solar on your roof, electric cars, no more gasoline bill. And in fact, I've generated for the last 2 years 20% more electricity than I've used in the whole entire home with no gasoline, no gas, and no electricity bill at all. So this is something that will save everybody money, and it's very good for society. And not only are you stopping the gas that's being burned in your home, but you're also eliminating the upstream mining and transport of the gas and the leakage. You might not know this, but in the United States, there are 50,000 oil and gas wells drilled every year. And it would have to go on forever if we kept up this natural gas infrastructure. So this is one thing we want to eliminate, and you've taken that step, one step in that direction, and I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zoe Wong Van Haren. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Nice to see you again. I'm sure you're tired of being thanked, but again, I'm here. I'm really, really excited. When I was here last, when you did the first reading, it was a really great feeling to leave this room and feel like something's really happening here. I've been working with Menlo Spark for a while, and having you guys pass this and really think about banning fossil fuels is really inspiring to me because I live in Palo Alto, and I really want that to happen in my city as well. So I'm just really here to thank you in this step in moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, any other public speakers this evening, Ms. Herron? No. Would my colleagues like to make a statement? Councilmember Carlton.
Unless there's further discussion, I move the point.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a second from Ms. Nash. I just wanted to say real quickly, first of all, I wanted to thank very much Menlo Spark and our environmental quality commissioners and our professional staff. Tremendous work on this this ordinance, and the community who came out to support it. I commented in an earlier meeting, and I'll comment again. At the beginning of the year when we looked at this, we thought this was going to be way harder to do. And it's funny because I think Daschle, I think you said it really well. Tonight I don't feel like it's that brave. I just feel like it's common sense. I think it's time. And I've said that before, and the first time that this started to become public, it was announced that we were going to be the second city. And I had people in the city call and say, Ray, do you have to be second? Do you have to be second after Berkeley? Like, can't you wait a little while longer? And I said, just wait and see. Like, people are ready for this. And tonight we sit here, and boy, being second is such a privilege, because now San Jose, the third largest city in the state, is doing this. I know my colleagues and I have been contacted by council members and activists up and down the state that their cities are moving toward it. And it is a privilege to be able to vote on this tonight. It also happens to be my son's 14th birthday, and I gave him a razor for his birthday. But I also see this vote as my present both to him and his friends, and in a way his generation, as humbly as it is. So with that, I think we're ready to take. Are we ready to take a vote? Yep.
The motion passes unanimously with Vice Mayor Taylor absent.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item. We're calling item N1 out of order. And thank you all for coming this evening. Really, very much appreciate it. We're calling N1 out of order. It's an authorization to request San Mateo Labs, a division of at the County of San Mateo, for air quality monitors in the Bellhaven neighborhood. Staff report 19-199 CC. And do we have Mr. Pegueros?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick Pegueros, Assistant City Manager. This is a request through to the council from Mayor Pro Tem Taylor, and Ulysses Vinson with San Mateo County Labs is here to answer any questions you may have about the program that his department, along with public health at the county, have offered to install air quality sensors, monitors here in Menlo Park.
Good evening. My name is Ulysses Vinson, and I'm director of SMC Labs. Many of you probably don't know what SMC Labs is, but it's a new smart region initiative that was created through within the county, of the IT department, the technology department of San Mateo County. And I was brought in to kind of create an innovation function for the county. So we all know what the theme of smart cities mean. Everyone has a different definition, but one of the things that we wanted to do as a county, we look at it as a smart region. What can we do collectively in the name of innovation, working with the 20 cities within the county and, of course, the large unincorporated area of the county? So we launched last year, and we kind of created this sandbox, if you will, of playing with new technologies as it relates to public safety, environmental issues, smart mobility, government efficiency, and just overall improving the quality of life. So when we launched at the Internet of Things conference last year in April down at Santa Clara Convention Center, we had one of the first things that we launched was in a use case was in the environmental sector was air quality monitoring. We had spoke to departments, we spoke to some of the cities in our community within the county, and of course the wildfires were happening all at the same time, and we had people running around wearing masks, and it was the first time that's ever happened. And quite frankly, I think no one really paid attention to the impacts of the air quality in the Bay Area. And what we recognized in SMC Labs, this is not an issue that stops at the borders of individual cities. This is clearly what we would call a smart region initiative. So we launched, and one of the things we knew is that the only data points that we were getting as a county was from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. So what that means is we had one sensor that's located in Redwood City that was supposed to give us, the county itself and the 20 cities within the county, that was the only reading that we had as a county as it relates to when we were going through the wildfires. So we know, living in the county, and we know that there's microclimates everywhere, and we know that each city does have their pressure points as it relates to air quality, whether it's traffic or congestion. So we knew that there was a need for localized, hyper-local air quality monitoring. So we started with 10 sensors in the past year. We have a few different type of some of them low cost, some of them medium cost. And what we've created is a air quality monitoring district that will complement that high-level data that's coming from the EPA, which is the management district. So we are now in this next fiscal year, currently in the next 3 months, we are looking to expand that. We have one in East Palo Alto right now. And now I've already met with Menlo Spark, we met with them, and we met with Mayor Pro Tem Taylor and a couple of others about the need to have something localized and monitor areas of Menlo Park, which we are prepared to do. It is no cost to the city whatsoever. All we want to do is make sure that we have, we talk with the appropriate stakeholders on your team. We do have public health. The county public health folks are actually engaged in this, and this is the first time IT or technology folks actually talk to folks in, the public health or public works. So this new kind of smart region theme it's really a transformation of how government operates. And I think moving forward, a lot of these city services in the name of innovation or in the name of improving quality of life is going to require some sort of technology. And in this case, air quality monitoring, it's an Internet of Things, that the little buzzwords, IoT. It's basically these little sensors that's sending out little pockets of information about the air quality of that particular area. So we're prepared to do that, and if you have any other questions, and if there's any other problems that you're having within your city, we're looking at smart mobility, last mile transportation, we're doing smart irrigation, we're doing smart trash management, we're piloting all of this in our little sandbox. So we're having a lot of fun doing it, and some stuff work better than others. But the key is that we're doing it now on the front end, because this is all new technology. We're not spending large capital outlays before we know the technology is proven, because it's changing so fast. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Awesome. All right. So we do have 2 public comments before we get to ask you questions.
All right.
So our first public speaker this evening is Pamela Jones.
Good evening, Pamela Jones, resident of Menlo Park. Mayor Mueller, council members Combs, Nash, and Carlton, and staff, I want to thank you for bringing this item up so quickly on your agenda. It's such an important issue, not just for the residents of Belhaven, but for all of Menlo Park. I know that there'll be a positive response. I also look forward to monitoring in the Lorelei Suburban Park and Flood Triangle, right next to the freeway, because we know we're breathing particles that are very unhealthy for us. So again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Diane Bailey.
Good evening, Mayor Mueller and council members. I'm so delighted that you're taking up this item to consider installing air monitors in Belhaven. I think it's long been needed, and we're really happy that the county has come in with this generous offer to install the air monitors. They already have a pilot program they are managing, and so this would be a no-cost, no-effort option for the city and provide tremendous benefit. I think it's really important to know what children are breathing next to the freeway, and particularly we're concerned about the Boys and Girls Club, Kelly Field, Onetta Harris Center, and all of the schools in the neighborhood. And it will be really an asset to the community just to know what the levels of pollutants are in that community, and we hope to see the program grow over these years. I'm very sad that Cecilia Taylor can't be here tonight, but I hope that she is smiling to herself knowing that this program can move forward, and we'll continue working together with the county and the city to make this a reality. Thanks.
Thank you. No more public comment? So just at the outset, I do want to compliment Mayor Pro Tem Taylor on her work on this, and also say thank you to Ms. Bailey for her assistance to Mayor Pro Tem Taylor staff to bringing it forward as quickly as we have now. Any questions before we provide direction? Councilmember Carlton.
I was kind of mortified to hear that the one thing we had was in Redwood City, considering how diverse our county is. I assume this is a trend that will be going across the whole county. And I also assume that the air pollution is going to be comparatively worse because it's by the highway. We have two highways, although the 280, the people aren't living that close. What happens next? We put these in and we find out the air isn't as clean as it should be or could be comparative to other areas. Then what happens?
Yeah. So, I think, the next steps would be, that's when the ownership, the other stakeholders kind of come in. And for me, it's the Department of Public Health, as a county function, or the Office of Sustainability, which for the county is in charge of the climate action plan for the county, just kind of from a regional perspective. But you're right. I think for us, when we met with the superintendent of schools for the county, and she had nothing or no data to be able to justify keeping the school district open or closed as a result of the wildfires. So we're going to kind of create a team around this air quality monitoring because there are so many stakeholders, and she said in her 30-year career she's never had to make that type of decision as relates to keeping the entire school open or closed, because Alameda was closing at one point, and here we are with just this one, and some little small consumer grade things. But I think it's important. We're the technology arm. That's what we do very, very well, but I'm not the guy that will be able to take care of that or be able to advise that parent who has a child with asthma on whether or not they should send the child to school. So that's why it's important that we create the appropriate people, bring the appropriate people to the table. On your side, whether it's whether it's an environmental department or whatever one fits into that purpose. But it's very exciting because we're very happy that this data is coming in. We actually co-located our sensors next to the one in Redwood City to see if it's, to make sure that it's robust and it's, giving us good information, and it is. So now the next step for us is to make all that information available to the public and make it in a way that's very efficient. So we're looking at even using, coding it for Alexa, where you can easily get it from maybe an app of some sort. But the key is not to have it just sitting at a website. We want to make sure this data is available on demand for you as well from your cellular phone or your smartphone.
That's great. And having it in that area is critical for the reasons we've stated before. But are you also going to have one downtown or by Hillview or in any other areas?
Yeah, so we're open for discussion on that. So we have been talking with many cities. We are actually doing a lot of benchmarking or baselining because, we don't have a baseline. And so because of, the air quality on the bay side and the coastal side is just tremendously different. And I'm learning. I kind of feel like I can do Spencer Christian and do the weather better than him in many cases. But it's something that from a technologist, it's very interesting. But we will yield to the appropriate people that can be able to tell us, beyond the atmospheric pressure, where they should be located. So we work very closely with the people who actually make the sensor networks. We're actually working with Google as well because we want to make sure that we make this information available to anyone, and anyone who can manipulate that data better than we can, where you can start bringing an AI to be able to say, based on these current predictions of, X, Y, and Z, then we may have this may be something that, from an air quality standpoint, we may be able to make predictions for the first time. So it's all very exciting.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Nash.
Thank you. It's really is exciting. I have questions similar along this line. Just how often is the data collected? How is it going to be reported out? Are any public officials or what will happen with it as opposed to just having it available to Alexa and individuals?
Yeah. So we want to make sure that we basically installed this network back in April of this year. So we've been up and running, 5 months, 6 months. So the first first 6 months, we wanted to make sure that the data was accurate, that the hardware that we were installing on sides of, poles or on lots, that, it was robust. There's a lot of, that's the technology part side, right? Luckily, we were able to be very agile and get them up very quickly because these are solar powered, so these devices did not need electricity on the poles. So we were able to do it very quickly. So the next steps for us is to obviously meet with the community. We do have the closest site that we have right now is in East Palo Alto on University Avenue. But we're looking to expand both the coast and the bay side. Now, again, the data, we're looking for the consistency of the data, and we can show when it goes above the normal things. And so now that we're confident the data looks good and it's real, so now we're looking at how do we make it available. And we will provide the APIs for this data so you can be able to collect it on your own. And we invite people to do that, to take that data, and they can create an app, if you will. That's when, it's kind of like the open data, the open gov movement. IoT data is the same to us. We will treat it the same way, where someone can come, take that data and make it even more relevant on it. Like it could be an app. It could be anything. So we're waiting on that, but I think we're now ready to start releasing the data starting at the end of October. With the data that we have now, we would be adding on to the existing network with you guys, with the Menlo Park, City of Menlo Park, and we hope to have that installation done no later than the end of the year.
How are other cities who are receiving the data, if maybe it's just East Palo Alto, using the data at this point?
They haven't. So no one's using it yet.
So essentially, we need to get some sort of infrastructure and analysis around the data.
Yeah, so
I'm driving at.
We need to. Well, one of the things we're doing because we are testing other data feeds, right? So you have one coming from one vendor, which is Aclama, that we feel really confident with. There's another company where we're getting data mobilely, where we're putting the air sensors on a network of electric vehicles, and we're doing a 17-mile kind of radius where they're just going to drive up every street and every cul-de-sac or what have you, and they're going to actually make several passes over time. We couldn't obviously do the whole county, but we picked the 17-mile, and that's north of here, more in the Foster City area, and moving west to like Belmont and San Carlos. And that'll give us a baseline. It won't cover incidents. So if there's a major incident that happens where there's a fire or something going on, it won't really necessarily cover that. But it'll give us a baseline of over the course of a year, this is what the 17 miles on a block-to-block basis looks like. So that's another way that we're doing. We're not just putting stationary sensors up on poles, which is great for incidents, right? So like you have a construction site, and we do at County Center right now where we're building everything. So the stationary ones is picking up all of the construction and all of the tearing it down of the buildings. And you can see how we've seen it rise. So this one is just the baseline. So that's another data stream that we're going to look at and see how that incorporates that. How do we incorporate that into the other data feed that we're getting?
Okay. So I just want to clarify. Tonight we're just authorizing you to do the request. It's going to come back to us again after you've done the request, or this is the last time we see it before it happens?
That depends on the direction from the council, but it's my understanding that SMC Labs is ready to go. They just want to confirm that we're interested in the program.
All right, and then my question goes to the city attorney. Can we do this under a council member, where it is on the agenda? It's under council member reports.
Yes, you can take action to recommend that we send the letter for the grant request.
So
I support that.
So we'll have so can we do that by acclamation? Yeah, by acclamation. You have authorization. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next item, so I'm going to do, you have a hard stop still, right? All right, so then what we're going to do, guys, is, and I apologize to our commissioners, but we're going to be down to 3 council members. at 8:45. So I got to call an item that's going to require some work here. So I'm going to I'm going to call item J7, which is the local minimum wage issue. First off, does anyone want to pull this item from the consent item?
Yep.
Councilmember Carlton wants to pull it. Do we have any speakers on the item? So everyone go ahead and turn in your cards. Do we have does anyone need a staff presentation again on the item? No, staff presentation?
No.
No? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and call our first speaker, Ms. Frandine.
Thank you, Council members, Mayor. Frandine, Chamber of Commerce. All the figures related to the cost of living in the Bay Area justify an adjustment to the minimum wage to support workers that we all depend upon. However, there is a balance that needs to be achieved in notification and implementation. Redwood City had greater than 18-month period to achieve what we expect to do in 3 months. We ask that you carefully consider the small business owners' task of balancing a fair wage and keeping their businesses open. You've heard from our small business owners describing how they need time to implement the full increase of the minimum wage adjustment. They are well aware of the need to provide a living wage and are making every effort to adjust their wages while maintaining their business. The options facing our small businesses, if the increase goes into effect in just 3 months, may include reduction of hours of operation, decreased staffing, increased prices, or a combination of any of these. To reiterate, what is proposed is a 35% increase for a small business today, or if you look at January 2020, it would be a 25% increase over the state minimum wage for these small businesses. That's a hefty challenge, to say the least. Once again, the Chamber of Commerce requests that City Council consider a stepped approach to increasing the minimum wage in our city for small businesses. Please take a balanced look at this. Support your local independent businesses with a stepped implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Raina Lehman. Did I pronounce your last name wrong, Raina? Lehman.
Council members, Mayor, excited to be at this point once again in an environment of great excitement this evening, talk about significant investments in our environment, in our air quality. I would like to continue the conversation to talk about investments in our workforce, in low-income workers in our community who work 2 and 3 jobs in order to keep themselves above water. This has the potential to be a truly landmark evening if we can continue on and make that investment in our workforce. Staff was very diligent in informing local businesses, and according to staff reports, there were at least 4 informal meetings with businesses in the chamber. In addition to the public meetings that have been held, the minimum wage ordinance has been agendized at least 4 times by this city council and discussed at least 4 times by this city council with little public opposition from local businesses and 0 opposition from our nonprofit community, and support of increasing the minimum wage at those meetings. I know I testified at these meetings and have tried to be a voice and shed light on the plight of low-income workers in our city and the fact that $15 an hour remains $31,200 a year before taxes. And people just can't make it here. None of us could do that on $31,000 a year. Other cities tackled this issue. Other cities, other businesses have been faced with this exact same issue and took it on several years ago. If we had taken it on several years ago, we would have had that longer runway. we would have been able to step it. The state is bearing down on us as well. The wage is going up to $15. It's not that this is something that was unexpected. It's been talked about. The fact that it's in Menlo Park and the fact that we have to do it, we should have done it years ago. I think it's unacceptable at this point in the process to sort of throw curveballs. There's an ordinance. There have been several draft ordinances. There is an ordinance that you approved at your last meeting. After much discussion and much thoughtful debate, you approved the wording of an ordinance. I think it's kind of a curveball at this point to change that or throw any of the timing of that out the window at this point. At this point, doing something like that just seems like a way of derailing and extending this process infinitum. Again, you voted to pass what I consider, what the Labor Council considers, what hopefully workers in our community consider a very reasonable, thoughtful, rational, needed approach, needed minimum wage ordinance, and I urge you to stand by that decision this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Anna Chow.
Hi, good evening. My name is Anna Chow. I'm a resident of Menlo Park. My husband and I are also owners of Cheeky Monkey. I want to thank everyone on the council so much for listening to our concerns during the last meeting, really taking them to heart and understanding what the challenges are to small businesses in Menlo Park and the region at this current time. It's not like we're sitting on a pot of money that we would love to be able to pay all of our workers $1 million a year. The economics of that just don't work for small businesses. I again want to thank you so much for your time and look forward to you working with you to support businesses if this does pass in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Grace Streltsov. I'm sorry, Grace, if I said your last name wrong. All right. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. So my name is Grace Streltsov, and I'm a community health planner with San Mateo County Health. My office leads a collaborative called Get Healthy San Mateo County. We're made up of community organizations, county agencies, cities, schools, hospitals, and we work to remove the social and economic barriers to health so that every county resident has the opportunity to live a long and healthy life. One of our key community identified priorities is fostering a strong local economy that builds financial security for all. This in turn improves community health because access to adequate income is one of the most important predictors of a person's health. A few years ago, we conducted an analysis of low-wage workers in our county, where we studied the demographics, education levels, and industry traits of workers earning $15 an hour or less. Some of the things we learned from that research included the fact that 25% of our county's workforce is earning $15 or less. 95% of these workers are adults between the ages of 18 to 64 years of age, and 45%, nearly half, are raising children. Not being able to make ends meet takes a severe toll on our physical and mental health. It prevents us from obtaining the proper medical care and housing we need to be healthy. It puts us at greater risk of chronic disease and depression, and it means we have less time and resources to engage in healthy activities. I hope this information is helpful as you consider local wage issues. I appreciate the time and opportunity to contribute to Menlo Park's health by providing data and tools to better understand the needs of Menlo Park's low-wage workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Anthony Morales. Good evening.
Good evening. Please forgive me as this is the first time I'm standing in front of a podium. It's a very new experience for me. So I work at a very local nonprofit. I'm not going to disclose where, but I have noticed that income has been a very significant part of determining the outcomes of our clients, and I would like to advocate for them tonight. However, I would like to take into consideration all of the different opinions that have been presented, more specifically regarding the very first speaker, if I may address her, speaking about the possibility of some people being laid off from their positions due to the fact that, just running the business does provide obstacles. And so I very much agree that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour is a very necessary process for our community to grow and heal. However, if people are laid off, then what does that leave families with? Going from 11 to 0 would definitely be a very horrible thing to happen. And so I believe that in terms of viability, going immediately may be a very significant challenge that may have very undesired repercussions. However, keeping this, possibly moving it out to later in order to ensure that families are able to find and sustain a job is very critical to the success of our county health. And so I raise that to the possibilities of consideration, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. You did a good job at the podium. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and bring it up here for discussion. Anybody want to go ahead and start? Councilmember Carlton, you pulled it.
Yeah, I pulled it. I just wanted to implore you guys on behalf of the people that are really struggling to keep their businesses open. We have a lot of small businesses. Safeway, don't really care about Safeway. They're going to be able to afford to pay this. That's not a problem. Pete's, some of the bigger places, not a problem. But Cheeky Monkey and some of the really locally owned little stores that we have downtown, places that we cherish. We go on about how we want these locally owned small company gems rather than the big chain companies in our town. And my heart goes out to them because this is a hit. And yeah, Drew, we need to catch up. I absolutely agree. I absolutely 100% want to raise this to $15. And for those who don't agree, sorry, that's just the economics of living in this area. But I've heard enough to realize that we are putting a real issue for the smaller businesses. So I was wondering if we could do this so that it would be a stepped approach for the small businesses, and everyone else, it goes up in 3 months. Redwood City did it in 18 months. Maybe we do $14 in January and then $15 in 6 months after that. But I'm just wanted one last chance to ask if we can do something to make this better for the people who are struggling to provide jobs downtown. Because I have heard from them that they'll have to cut hours and cut jobs. And that doesn't really, that takes us a step back from where we're trying to go with this. And as I said, I'm completely fine with this for everyone else. My heart goes out to the really small business owners that this is seriously going to impact.
Yeah, so you're proposing for small businesses, which you're defining how?
Yes.
How are you specifically
I
defining?
was actually going to ask Fran, what is it, less than 20 employees? How do we define small businesses in Menlo Park? You're the expert on. And Anthony, you did a great job.
I would use the same definition that the state uses. Right now, they have a different rate for small business versus other businesses, and that is 20. I don't know whether it's 25 or less or less than
Anthony,
25. I think
seems-
it's 25 or less employees.
Okay. So we have a state defined what is a small business.
And so you're saying in January 2020, those small businesses go to 14, and then in 2021, they'll go to 15. Is that your proposal?
I'm good with that.
Is it, I just want to...
I actually was going to say 6 months later. I was just going to step it up enough to let them plan their finances.
Okay, so 6
But,
months. Six months. So 14 in January for small businesses, 15 6 months later. Right. I can be supportive of that.
Okay.
Councilmember Nash.
So I'm really struggling with this. I very much love the small businesses, as we all do, downtown. I'm very concerned about the vibrancy. The businesses that I've spoken with, other than Cheeky Monkey, are already at and above $15 an hour. We have got such a huge issue with housing and people not being able to afford even groceries, medicine, and I think that it's really important to catch up to all the other cities that are already at $15 an hour. I would love it if this were the fix. I just can't believe that the 6 months is really going to make that big a difference. And I guess what I would propose is going ahead with the policy the way it is currently stated and doing outreach, doing a program which Ray and I have spoken about, where we really trying to highlight small businesses, really encourage people to buy locally, buy from our local retailers, because otherwise they will not survive regardless of the situation. And I think we have a strong need to really support our downtown businesses. I would also personally like to look into vacancy when businesses are vacant for more than 6 months, if we can do something there to encourage the rents to be more reasonable. We have a unique situation here where business owners actually are able to just leave their businesses vacant, and I think that that's something that possibly could help business owners. But I would like to see the ordinance passed as it is. I guess my one other question is, we would have to go back through all the readings again, wouldn't we?
No, we would only have to do one additional second reading. This would be considered the first reading.
I'm going to hold at 15.
Okay, so I'm doing the math in my head, guys, and what I'm looking at is like the difference between $15 an hour and $14 an hour for, say, 5 employees for a small. So it's not all of the employees of the small business, and there's also a difference between a small business like small business retail versus small business professional office. And so if we create, and I don't think anyone here is going to say small business professional office like a medical provider or something like that. We're really trying to target. If we're looking at like a small business retail, even then the testimony that we've had is it's a small number of employees for that business. And so if you're looking at $1 an hour for, let's say, 5 employees at no more than 15 hours, you're looking at saving, $75 a week in employee payroll. Times 4 weeks is $300 for that business. And the question I have is it worth it to do that, or is it worth it to go ahead and actually spend money trying to get people to go to the downtown and actually go to that small business with a more robust program? I'm not sure. It feels to me like, so basically $300 times 6 months is, it's $300 times 6 months is $1,800 saved in wages, right? Is that what it comes down to?
Yeah. I mean, I would just add, obviously, at the last council meeting, I was the one who said we need to catch up. And to me, I think the question is we do, but sort of who bears the burden most of that catching up? And in this moment, and I completely agree, like, again, I'm like mostly where you are. I think I'm like right on the other side of that line. It's just sort of who bears the burden of that catching up, the fact that this wasn't something that we took on as a city much earlier. And again, I do think if you look at it just as like, oh, well, you take, people who are $11 and pay them $15, but there is a ripple effect, right? Because if you've got people who you're paying $11 and then you start paying them $15, well, then the people you are paying $15 are going to be like, hey, and because generally, more than likely, you're in a situation where they're a little bit more senior in seniority or in tenure. And so there is this ripple effect. So I think it's hard to sort of look at it as just the just the people at the minimum wage, because again, like I said, I think that there will be a ripple effect throughout the payroll. And so I'm at this moment on board with giving small businesses a little bit more time. But if that's not where the council is, then that's
I originally wanted 13, but I mean, I struggle with this too. I want to make sure that people have more money, but I want to be respectful and supportive to our small businesses. So that's why I went to 14 for my suggestion instead of 13. I'm really trying to get us here. I really am. But my mom has a small business, and she barely gets by. And $1,800, to be honest with you, $300 a month, it actually does. It sounds crazy, but it does make a difference.
But
It adds up.
My big concern is that, so where I think I am on this is that if we're going to do that, like what I would want to do is I'd want to have like a real discussion with staff about, and our city attorney about like how that, because what I don't want to do is say, okay, well, 14, it feels kind of like, it feels a little bit from the hip. I mean, it feels a little bit from the hip. And also, candidly, like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I think kind of candidly, like I'd like to have Vice Mayor Taylor weigh in on it too. So what I suggest is why don't we go ahead and let the two of you work with staff to figure out exactly what that proposal is? Does that work for you two? No, you and Drew?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm happy to do that with you.
That's totally fine. And again, like I said, I did want to make that case because that is where my thinking is. At the same time, if there are 2 votes for, passing the ordinance as it's written, then I could also be a third vote for that.
Why don't you and I look into it, and then we'll be able to vote with a clear conscience when we do.
I think I'd have a clear conscience anyway, because I wanted to make that argument to my colleagues. But again, if there is the case that, at this moment to not draw this out unnecessarily, if there is, again, like I said, two votes for what's written, I can support it.
So my big thing is, candidly, I'm not sure a dollar is going to make a difference for a 6-month time period, and I think for per employee on the carve out, and I'm worried that we're going to pull more people into it, and so I'm more apt to say, let's put money and do it by downtown, by Menlo Park, on the flip side of that, and like try to push people around town. The big issue that we're having with our downtown, with our shop owners, when you speak to them, is people aren't coming in. They're just not coming in like they used to. And I don't know about you guys, but like Amazon Prime is a major threat. It's just killing them. And I'd rather than say, okay, I'm going to feel good about the difference between $1 that I'm not sure is $1 like 14 to 15 for 6 months, is I'm not sure the relief that people were looking for. I just don't think that's the relief people were looking for from this. I think I'd rather say let's do something very robust for our downtown around like a shop Menlo.
Yeah, then I'd say let's vote
on it. All right.
I see what you're saying, but it's $1 per hour per person, and every small business isn't downtown. We have some great little restaurants that I'm sure are struggling down Willow Road and.
Well, the restaurant issue is a different one. So, because I'll be candid. So I did speak with Councilmember Nash on this and put a lot of work in. I did meet with merchants on this, and the downtown restaurant issue is a different issue because restaurants can actually add to their bill a certain amount, and we can explain to restaurants how to do that to help phase in that impact. In Palo Alto, they are doing that now, and so in Palo Alto, when you buy a meal, there is an add-on that says for I think it's living wage add-on for it, and so for people who need that, for businesses who need that, they can add on to it. And it has not affected my decision to go to any restaurant when I'm there, and nor do I think it would. So we can already work with our restaurants to ameliorate the impact. I think the real folks who are going to be potentially affected by this are not the small business professionals. They're not and it's not really the small business restaurant because that can be adjusted. It's really the small business retail, and small business retail needs our help. But the difference between 14 and 15 is not where I think they're going to need our help. I think they need our help getting people to shop downtown again and shop in those businesses again. So, Councilmember Nash.
I just wanted to add that I think what we really need to focus on is having them actually purchase downtown. I've spoken with several shop owners where people actually come to the store, often will get advice, and then be very honest about, oh, don't worry about it, I'll go buy it on Amazon. or there's other times when people are being asked to price match Amazon. Local businesses are being able to price match Amazon. So I think that I'm not sure it's even as much the foot traffic getting people in as it is to really culminate that purchase and buy local so that our businesses survive.
It's a real problem, but I don't know what program is going to fix that.
Well, it's an educational outreach program. So they have done programs like that in Belmont and in other places to say, hey, did you know that for instance, and then you highlight the shop owners. I tried to do something earlier like this, or this year at Christmas time for Cheeky Monkey. But you highlight the shop owners. You talk about what they mean. Everyone, it's funny, it's a terrible thing that if you talk to someone in town and they talk about the downtown businesses, they light up and they're excited about it. But in that moment, when they're all so busy, it's so easy just to walk over to that computer and do it. And so you have to, it requires an engagement process to support them. And I think that candidly, I think we really need to do that for our downtown right now. I think we need, so anyway, so you made a motion, Betsy's made the motion to go and accept. Councilmember Combs, you make a second? Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passes with Councilmember Carlton dissenting and Mayor Pro Tem Taylor absent.
So what I would like to do, though, is before we let the item go, is say, like, I would like direction from council and agreement that we will bring back on a meeting very soon a program, once we can figure out budget with staff, to go ahead and support our downtown local businesses. We all in agreement on that? So, and that might be something that I know we
say
have.
Local businesses? Again, we have,
Of course.
we have retail all over the city.
No, of course, our local businesses. So, but yes, of course, our local businesses and our local retail. So that, I wasn't meaning to pick one or the other. But anyway, so we can go ahead, bring that, and then it might be also, frankly, the communications plan that we're going to get a report on, I think, next. Might be a good thing to make that one of the first items we work on. So with that, we can go on to the next item. Our next item this evening is we're moving all the way back to earlier in the agenda. It's item H1, communication plan presentation. Public engagement manager Clay Clerton will make the presentation. Okay, we're going to lose Councilmember Combs at this time. We're going to take a short break.
Gas-powered leaf blowers, we've received a number of comments on this, and I think
the EQC, we're not planning on addressing it simply because the majority of the concerns, while there is a emission factor, the majority of the concerns are around noise and around air quality and the particulates. And we thought, we were curious if it was possible we thought that council could work with or write a letter to the Bay Area Quality Management District requesting that they take action on this or look into it. So that was something that we have received from the community. We've also heard a few comments about the San Francisco Creek, which we are also not planning on addressing unless we're directed by council. The PACE program. So the PACE program is to provide lending options for people to have access to solar. And it turns out when this program was put into effect, there was only one provider. But now the market shifted and there are a number of providers, but it was brought to our attention that there's only one vendor in Menlo Park. And so we thought that you would want to be aware of that. And we're planning to include a PACE program in the Climate Action Plan. But in the meantime, we've inadvertently created a monopoly for only one organization to be a part of that program in Menlo Park. And lastly, most recently, environmental justice has been brought to our attention. This was specifically regarding the climate change issues related to sea level rise and how that affects our community and disproportionately affects neighborhoods on the bay side of Menlo Park. And this would also be something that we would bring into our climate action plan to address. One of the most significant areas of conversation with the Commission has been the balance of spending time on topics that address greenhouse gas emissions and climate action while balancing that with the time that the heritage tree appeals have taken. I think that with the updates, the EQC believes that heritage tree appeals will be less frequent because there will be more open communication and awareness by the community. But as a commission, we do feel that the commission's time and staff time could be more significantly dedicated to climate action related topics as opposed to heritage tree appeals. And that's something that we wanted to raise to your attention as well and let you know that it's something we're talking about. So looking ahead, we recommend that the Climate Action Plan be a priority for the Commission and for the city. And we look forward to hearing from you all and receiving your guidance on the Commission work plan for 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment speakers on this item? No. Do we have any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember
Thank
Nash.
you very much for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. We know you're a group of very dedicated people who do a lot of homework, and we notice and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nash.
And we could not have done the REACH code without all of the EQC's work. Thank you. I don't know exactly what the correct approach on this is, but I've met with some people doing the PACE funding, and I have some significant concerns about it and whether the city should be sponsoring this. So it's before you go into that area, I think it might be a council. Anyway, I don't know exactly how we need to make a decision or whether, I'd be comfortable if you do. But it's just, proceed with caution, please.
Thank you.
I think the PACE program is usurious at best. And if you can bring in some competition, if we're not going to get rid of it, bringing in competition is the best way to manage that.
So my memory, if you go back and watch those meetings, was that the direction was to create a marketplace. So there was supposed to be competition. And so if it hasn't operated in that, then we need to look at that. But my memory is that the PACE program came down actually from Governor Brown's office, and that Governor Brown was actually in the concerns that you may have with respect to trust, with respect to deeds and mortgages. Exactly. Governor Brown's office was was frankly fighting that legal challenge at the time. We had assurances from the state that the program would actually be able to function correctly and that we wouldn't have the issue with the mortgages. We said at the time of adoption that we wanted it to be a marketplace. Governor Brown is no longer our governor, and I don't know if the Office of Planning and Research, how they're handling the PACE program. So looking into that, as Councilmember Nash has suggested, would be great. I agree with Councilmember Carlton and Nash, looking at that marketplace. And with what you guys want to do to make sure we have a competitive marketplace would be great. The only item I didn't see on here that I'm curious about is if the pesticide notification issue, if you guys are interested in that at all, or is that something we should really take up at council?
So I'm smiling because we'd had it in and then we took it out. I think the commission is interested in the pesticide notification. Thank you. So I think that is something that's of interest. I think that we would be interested in seeking guidance as well from council, and if that's something where you would like to see us spend our time.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we're in agreement.
And can I make one clarifying comment?
Sure.
Also, the thing with PACE is that they take no risk and charge very high rates. Just throwing it in there for the further things. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Nash, yeah. We need you guys to look into it again. We haven't seen it in a long time.
No problem.
So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your work.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're very excited.
Awesome. Our next speaker this evening is our Park and Rec Commissioner Chair, Christopher Harris. Thanks for being patient this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Yeah, it's great to be able to represent the Commission tonight and present our quarterly report. You have an e-copy of the report, and I'd just like to highlight for you two major achievements related to our work plan goals. The first achievement is related to our goal around providing inclusive programs and services of high quality that meet the diverse and changing needs of all of Menlo Park residents and neighboring communities. It's a goal of our Commission. It's been a focus for quite a while of our Community Services Department. And as you're aware, they and the city broke ground. Perhaps we could say they broke playground several months ago at Nealon Park with Menlo Park's first all-inclusive nature playground and demonstration site. The work has gotten underway since, and the finish line is on the horizon. It's expected that playground will be ready for a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the end of October. So that's really great news. The Parks and Recreation Commission is looking forward to participating in that ceremony, and of course, we look forward to seeing all the City Council members at that time. Once we wrap up the Nealon Park playground, the Burgess Park playground is next on the docket. So that's really exciting news on the playground front. The second major achievement I'd like to update you on is related to our goal around ensuring that our parks and community facilities are well maintained, and that we are actively upgrading and expanding and improving accessibility and usage by members of our community. And the Commission has made contributions over many months to the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan. We're an advisory body to the master plan, and what that means is that we act as a check and balance throughout the process. We receive feedback from the Community Services Department. We ask questions, sometimes penetrating questions, and we make recommendations at each step. We've engaged also with user groups in the community about what they see as important needs for their parks. And then we also review and accept draft recommendations from the master plan. And then we make sure that the voices that we've heard from the community are actually in that plan. As I mentioned, that's unfolded over several months. And most recently, at our last meeting on August 28th, we reviewed and accepted the final draft of that master plan. You can expect that that's going to be coming your way mid-October. I think your October 15th meeting. It's a big accomplishment for us. As you know, these master plans take quite a while to bring together, so we're excited that it's finally making it to you and you can review and make a decision on that plan. Those are the two big activities that I wanted to update you on.
Excellent. Any questions for my colleagues? Councilmember Nash.
So I'm wondering if other Parks and Rec commissions for other cities also are generously looking at neighboring communities, or if that's something that's unique to Menlo Park.
I don't know enough about other Parks and Recreation commissions. I do know historically we do think about, we recognize that our Menlo Park facilities are used by folks in neighboring communities, that they come in. Unincorporated Menlo Park is an immediate and close example of community members who come into the city and use our services. So we've always had an eye on folks that are coming in, and then we also know that a lot of our programs and services, the classes that we offer, are also used by folks in neighboring communities. So we've always had an eye on that. And that new playground that we're developing, absolutely, we focus on the needs of Menlo Park residents first, but we know that by really attending to the diverse needs of our own community, that we're providing access to the surrounding community as well. And so we know that there's a benefit, and we think that it's important to just keep an eye on that. But first and foremost, we act in our first and foremost responsibility are to the residents. Thanks.
Thanks very much for all your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just wanted to say, I've attended the meetings, incredibly impressed with how hard you guys work, how thoughtful you are, how great you work with staff. So lots of compliments to the commission. Also some anecdotal, my son plays baseball at Nealon, and my daughter plays there when he plays baseball. And when the park structure came down, there was a lot of, oh no, the parkway's like, what's going on? Like, how could that go down? Like, we loved it. Lately, the comments have been, oh my gosh, that is so impressive. So cool. And they can see that it's wheelchair accessible, and they're so proud of it and proud of the city for doing it. And that's a reflection of the hard work of your commission. So thank you.
Thank you. And my kids feel the same way. They were really concerned when they saw it starting to be dismantled. Their obstacle course that they have there, that they created themselves, disappeared. And now, similarly, they're seeing this park this playground come alive. It's going to be so cool. They're going to be so excited to play on it.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for staying late, too.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to our consent calendar. And we've already dealt with item J3 and J7. Are there any other items to be removed from the consent calendar? Councilmember Carlton's moved for approval. Can I have a second?
We do have public comment on J4.
Okay, let's go ahead and call that at this time. Who's our public speaker?
Max Farrell.
I think we've lost him. Okay. Let's go ahead then. Can I have a second? Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passes with Council Member Combs and Mayor Pro Tem Taylor absent.
Okay. We're going to call our first regular business item this evening. We beat 9 o'clock. All right. Item K1, authorize the city manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with OpenGov up to $239,000 to upgrade the city's budgeting and financial reporting software. Finance and Budget Manager Dan Jacobson and Management Analyst Brandon Cortez will make the presentation. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Are we getting that? No. So we do have a fairly brief presentation, but we do think that it covers a number of important points, so we would like to go through it unless you would like us to just skip to the chase on this one.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions on this item? No? Councilmember Nash?
I guess my only comment is I know that they worked hard on the presentation, so it seems a shame not to quickly go through it?
I get the feeling, Dan.
Or would you rather just go home? It's fine with me to skip
Was in
it.
the staff report, so it's.
Oh, it is? Okay, perfect.
All right, I'm good. I'm looking for a motion. A second. Let's vote.
The motion passes with Councilmember Combs and Mayor Pro Tem Taylor absent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, she said it. And I do want to note for the record, just so people are aware, Vice Mayor Taylor had some family business to attend to this evening. It was urgent, and for that reason is not with us, but we do miss her. And but there was no opportunity. There was no opportunity for her to call in, or she would have. With that, we're going to go ahead and do item K2. Authorize the city manager to apply for the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant Transportation Improvements Fund. Our Deputy Community Development Director of Housing, Rhonda Kaufman, will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mueller and council members Carlton and Nash. I'll introduce this item. Tonight, staff is recommending that City Council authorize the city manager to apply for a grant to fund the transportation improvements as part of an Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities grant, which we call the AHSC or ASIC, in partnership with Mid-Penn's Housing Development at 1317 to 1385 Willow Road. This is 100% below market rate multifamily housing development and will include 140 units with the addition of 58 net new units for low-income households. The California Strategic Growth Council, their AHSC program, invests cap and trade money in projects that connect affordable housing with low-emission transportation services and infrastructure. The AHSC provides funding for affordable housing developments and transportation infrastructure that can include sustainable infrastructure such as new transit vehicles, sidewalks, and bike lanes, transportation-related amenities such as bus shelters, benches, or shade trees, and other programs that encourage residents to walk, bike, and use public transit. The AHSC program is expected to award over $400 million in funding in this round 5, in 2020, with roughly 1/3 of that being allocated to eligible projects in the Northern California region. The AHSC project maximum is typically $20 million, with the typical project cost breakdown between housing and transportation improvements at a 70 to 30% ratio. This could provide between $2 and $5 million for pedestrian and bicycle capital improvement projects here in Menlo Park. Mid-Penn identified AHSC as a promising funding opportunity to provide gap financing critical for their project, as well as to fund transportation infrastructure projects and improve transit service, with a preliminary list summarized in your staff report in Attachment A. Staff is working to identify the highest scoring transportation improvements that meet the grant criteria, and staff has prioritized projects that are ones that serve the residents of the development and Belhaven, but may be expanded to include improvements that best meet the program criteria and provide citywide benefits. If the city partners with Mid-Penn on this application and is awarded the funds, construction of projects identified in the grant application may supersede other transportation project priorities currently in the pipeline or planned for future years. Staff anticipates returning to City Council late in 2019 or early 2020 for approval of the specific scope of work for the grant application. However, staff is seeking City Council's general concurrence that advancing as a partner to explore submitting an AHSC grant application is appropriate at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and our Nikki Nagaya, our interim public works director, is here, as well as staff from Mid-Penn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any public comment on this item this evening? No? Anyone have any questions? Anyone want to make a motion? Go ahead and make a comment.
I think it sounds wonderful. I'm concerned about delaying the El Camino crossing improvements. I totally understand we can't do everything, but that seems, especially as the development projects are coming online. Once the Guild gets going, the Green Heart, Stanford, that's going to be a huge issue for us, and we should be proactive on it. So to the extent that we can decide, figure out possibly what additional resources are needed or something, I just am concerned about that. And then of the projects that are listed that are available for the grant money, I just would like to promote the Kelly Park, Dumbarton, the crossing to connect the area, basically tied to high school area, to Kelly Park. Would just be, it's project number 185. I think would be such a wonderful thing for the community, and would love to see that go forward however possible if we get the funding. Thank you.
Councilmember Carlton.
I think it sounds great, and I just wanted to do a shout out to MidPen. Historically, through the years that we've worked with you, you've been great partners. You've always been consistent and reliable and professional, and I trust what you do.
Excellent. Great job. Let's go ahead and make can I have a motion? Got a second? And let's vote.
The motion passes with Councilmember Combs and Mayor Pro Tem Taylor absent.
Okay. With that, we're done with our regular business items tonight. There are no information. There are informational items. There's no presentations. Staff's available. Questions? Do we have any questions on the informational items? We'll get this on some. Okay. So, any questions on the informational items?
So, on the council agenda topics, I would love to see the appointment to the Facebook Willow Village Development Agreement Subcommittee go forward. We discussed it, but it's never been formalized. And I saw that regional preparedness efforts came off because of the discussions with Atherton, but I would love to see that come back at some point to discuss more preparedness, emergency preparedness here. Thank you.
We have about, we're going to be doing some juggling here at the end of the year because we have a number of items that aren't placed on any city council date. So some things, right now we're really trying to meet the city council priorities, get those done, get those knocked out. And then there'll be some things that we wanted to do this year that we're just not going to get to do, but it'll roll over to next year. Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it.
Anyway.
We'll get the appointment for Willow Village on right away.
I have a Parks and Rec.
Oh, sure. And then go ahead on the Parks and Rec master plan.
On the Parks and Rec master plan, the Burgess Park Snack Shack, I think it's a wonderful thing to proceed with or to have on our list of projects. I just believe that a snack shack or some sort of food opportunity should be considered at Annetta Harris Community Center first, because there's a complete lack of food in that area or walking distance, whereas at Burgess Park we do have other opportunities, although I do understand the appeal of having something right in Burgess Park. But I think that we definitely need to be looking at Annetta Harris Community Center and opportunities there.
So I don't need you to respond. I can just say we'll be talking about Annetta really soon. Really exciting stuff, I think, coming from staff to talk about with that. That'll probably incorporate some of that, and I don't think we'll have I think the snack shack will continue to exist until we get that figured out within the master plan. No problem. Any city managers? So we're done with those. City managers report.
Well, I don't think we've quite got to the presentation on the communications plan.
Oh my gosh. Is Clay still here? Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? All right. Well, before we move to council member reports, I think we got to hear the update on the communications plan. I'm so sorry, Clay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This is kind of supposed to be a high-level informational update for you. There's no action needed on this tonight, but I wanted to give you a brief update on what's been going on. The goals and purpose of any communication plan are to efficiently and effectively communicate with community members about city matters. And through the development of a communications plan, the city aims to, assess our current strategies and then form a strategic and proactive approach to addressing the communication needs going forward. In doing this, we reached out to 3 key audiences: community members, city staff, and peer cities. And the consultant also reviewed some of our current efforts, including the website, email notices, and e-newsletters, as well as social media and print. Real quick, some of the feedback from the community members, of which about 30% had lived in Menlo Park less than 7 years, and about 60% had lived here more than 15 years. So kind of a diverse tenure in the city, and the respondents came from every neighborhood in the city, so they were geographically dispersed. But 75% found that next door and just talking with their neighbors was probably the most effective. 60% rated our email newsletters and email alerts, as well as the website and almanac coverage, as very useful. 42% wanted meaningful involvement in city projects and issues. I think this came up when we talked about implementing the tiers framework for public engagement going forward. Some people have spoken that they feel that the city is somewhat closed to public input. And so through working through the tiers framework, we hope to improve our efforts there. Approximately 55% feel that they get enough information from the city, although a little over half wish that we could provide communications in a more timely manner. It's not uncommon for residents to say that they need 3 to 5 weeks notice to attend a public meeting or a public engagement effort, and I know oftentimes we only are providing 1 or 2 weeks notice, sometimes worse. Among staff, the consultant both met with and surveyed staff. We had about 17 people that work in all of our departments, so 17 people across 8 departments who relayed some of the challenges and needs that they face. 60% of the staff said they didn't feel that they could be successful in their external communication work. This is in addition to their project level work. If they're an engineer, that is kind of their main focus, and the engagement and outreach is always an added duty on top of that. 60% also requested or wished for a centralized, dedicated resource to help them in completing graphics and just kind of overall general direction regarding communications. At various times, we've used temporary or contract staff to fill in the gap on some of the design work. But there's training and opportunities to maybe grow our bench strength in the staff level. Additionally, staff identified difficulties in reaching the hard-to-reach audiences in our community, namely non-English speakers, as well as residents that are not digitally savvy, older adults. Additionally, so we need to maybe reconsider our resources, both time, training, staff tools that they're provided, and to involve online and electronic outreach more thoroughly. And staff specifically is hoping for the opportunity with resources to do more in-person outreach. That has come up through the tiers framework and is becoming more common in all of our large project outreach. Among the peer cities, we reached out to communications staff in other cities to find out what they saw as kind of the strengths and weaknesses of their own communication efforts. And some common themes emerged when we were talking about priorities. Most said they were focused on strategic planning and goal setting, trying to lead their department staff in communicating with the same tone and voice across all of their outreach, and an overall focus on community engagement. Most peer cities reported having at least a dedicated person, whether it was a PIO, a public information officer, or a communication director or manager. About half of them reported having a separate community engagement manager, which we now do, but we still lack some of the centralized or executive level leadership on individual communication strategy. Most of the cities reported having the same tools. Most have a website, email lists. They do regular electronic newsletters. Some do print newsletters. They really reported that depending on the project and needs of a particular audience is when they employ other tools such as physical signs or other kind of more specific outreach. In reviewing the current communication efforts, they took a hard look at our website. 45% of the community survey respondents wanted improved navigation. One of the limitations of our current website is the search function, which is proprietary to the hosted provider. It prioritizes documents in search results over website content or web pages. And with a proliferation of PDFs on our website, we have over 9,000 PDFs. Those constantly crowd out other search results. And not to mention the PDFs themselves are not always accessible or searchable. So any redesign would hope would focus on kind of a user-centered approach to the design, the navigation, the functionality, as well as improved accessibility. It was identified that even though staff, we now have approximately 60 people who contribute to the website to help keep it updated and manage their individual project pages. We could benefit from improved training. Periodically, we'll do training on how to write for the web or plain language writing that kind of helps staff learn how to craft content in a way that's easily comprehended and understand, but we could do more there. So this little graphic just shows a little bit of what our website was like before. CCIN is still part of that old style and could be a security risk. We moved to an off-site hosted provider with redundancies and kind of a graphical approach. It made a huge improvement in 2014, but here we are nearly 6 years later, and we're probably due for a redesign or a new approach. Regarding the email alerts and email newsletters, 70% felt that those were effective, and on the flip side, 26% didn't even know we offered that function. So that tells us we could benefit from doing some continuous outreach just to drive up our subscriber count. 53% again mentioned that more timely communications would make the effort more effective. And just to give you a stat, so we have about 46,000 unique email addresses subscribed to our email list, which is pretty good. And we are averaging, depends on the item, but an email open rate of about 20%. And 25 is kind of a marketing industry standard. So we're not quite there, but emails are highly effective. Regarding social media, the consultant had some feedback about we needed to improve our frequency of posting, our consistency in posting, and all of that kind of comes down to time, planning, tools to help schedule and optimize those posts. Majority of the respondents of this small survey said that, or not a majority, 45% said they didn't know if social media was really where it's at as far as the best way to get useful information. 44% felt Nextdoor was very useful. We have about 3 or 4 departments that we use Nextdoor more regularly, and we get quite a bit of good feedback from Nextdoor. So I think we'll continue to focus on that. Facebook actually produces our highest engagement on individual posts, and most residents have Facebook, so it's probably the most widely adopted social media platform in our community. No surprise. Twitter, on the other hand, is we have a lot of Twitter followers, but most of them are outside of our city. It's usually the journalists, the professionals who use Twitter, and those are the people who are already dialed in to what's going on in the city and know what's happening. The average resident doesn't use Twitter, according to our survey, more than at least once every 2 weeks. And again, just for a measure, we have about 4,200 followers on Facebook, a little over 5,200 on Twitter, and 16,000 members on Nextdoor, which represents 55% of the households in Menlo Park. But when you look at it, some districts are more subscribed to Nextdoor than others. Some are as low as 25%, and others are closer to 60%. So I think, again, we could use some effort to prioritize getting people to sign up and follow us on these different platforms. Regarding the print materials, the consultant went through and analyzed many different kinds, from flyers, brochures, newsletters, documents, different things that have been branded by staff. And they said that the materials, based on the new designs that we implemented after 2015, they're more bright, they're more colorful, they're easily identifiable when hanging next to other signs or flyers in the community. But they said we could benefit from, again, some specific training on consistency in writing and writing for the item. Because the way you write for a flyer is different than social media, different than what you'd put on a website. And I think that's, quickly going back to social media, that's one of the things that people maybe don't understand. They think social media is free, fast, cheap, and it is, but if you're going to do it right, we need to have things on a content calendar and planned and scheduled and repeating, and it needs to be more strategic than we are now. We're very reactive and very kind of spur of the moment right now. So that's it as far as kind of an overview of the results, but we hope to bring back some recommendations from this and some things for you to consider.
Thank you. I believe we have one comment card on the item. Ms. Pam Jones.
Good evening again. I am so excited about this report. It's everything that I could have said, and now I know it's not my imagination when I'm doing research and trying to get information out. So I'm really excited that we've identified what the problem is. In the meantime, though, as we're fixing it, I would like to suggest that on critical areas such as the CEQA website, that it contain all of the NOPs, draft EIRs, everything where that process is, just like you're doing with the Facebook Willow Village. And I'd also like to suggest that it might be helpful to have a residents advisory group to work with the city as they're doing the updates, because certainly they're the ones that are going to be able to give the most useful information. So anyway, I'm just really excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great job. Excellent job. Any other comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Nash.
I think it looks really exciting. A comment about Nextdoor. Recently, someone was saying that if we could get the city to promote with Nextdoor, being able to have the entire city in one neighborhood or one, basically, so people in Menlo Park could see all of the Menlo Park postings, that would be really, that are not unique to a specific neighborhood, because you can set where you want it to go. But essentially, I can see from Los Altos to Redwood City, but I cannot see many parts of Menlo Park.
I have the same frustration.
Yeah.
I can see more of outside of Menlo Park than I can see in Menlo Park. And then I've had people from Willows get really upset with me because I don't respond. And it's like, I
That's
can't
exactly where I was going.
physically read
Yes.
it. So I actually got hold of someone from Nextdoor and gave him a lot of grief about it. And he basically told me tough that they're going to do it the way they want to do it. So if you want to pressure them to step up and do a better job, I 110% agree.
Oh, wow.
I know of another commission head who has tried to do that as well and had the same response from Nextdoor.
They're great
But I'm
socially, but
hoping
one-on-one,
that
not so
perhaps
nice.
the city might have more clout.
But, so why don't we do this? Why don't we write a letter from the city asking for council members to be able to see it?
Amen.
Well, I would actually, if it would be possible, I think council members would be, and staff would be a great start. I mean, commissioners, would love to be able to see comments that are being posted that are relative to their commission. And I actually think that if we could get residents to see all of our neighborhood.
See, the problem is, I don't know if that, so we can try, but the thing is that from their standpoint, there's a strategy about how they approach a city and how much they want it to be neighborhood-centric. They want it to be next door, as opposed to on the other side of the city.
But this is where I literally can see southern Los Altos.
I don't know how that, you guys, that's interesting, you guys can do that. I've never been able to.
I'm not trying to, it's just what pops up. Basically,
Wow.
if someone, when they're tagging a post, you can either have it for your local neighborhood or all 153, I'm just making up a number, neighborhoods that you're connected with. And so that's the reason why I think that we should advocate for actually being able to see all of Menlo Park. I think it's great to be able to see Palo Alto and other places because it is worthwhile, but just to be able to see our entire city would be very beneficial, I think, too.
All right, well, we can draft a letter and ask, certainly. So let's get a letter put together and we'll make a request, just like we did to the map company way back, Waze, yeah. Okay, any other questions for staff?
Thank you very much. Great work as always.
Yeah, we're good?
One more.
One more.
If you could get on your radar screen to publicize this housing study session on November 5th, that would be awesome. Because I think that'll be of great interest to people.
I'll be in to see you too. Thank you. Okay, with that, we have council member.
A report.
Yeah, council member reports.
So the Sister Cities International for Northern California every year has a big year meeting. And I seem to have volunteered to be chair of that. So the 2nd of November, the first Saturday, we're going to host it at the Onetta Harris Center. And I'm bringing in speakers, and Mama Coco's is going to be the caterer. And it should be really interesting, really fun for anyone who's interested in learning about Sister City or different cultures. It's open to everyone who'd like to attend.
That's impressive, because we're not even a member of Sister Cities, are we?
Yeah.
We are, or we just don't have a Sister City?
We have a Sister City.
I thought we only had friendships. We have friendship cities.
No. We have a Sister City with Galway.
Oh, that's right. Galway's our Sister City. Okay.
And then we have friendship cities.
Yeah.
Oh. One's dating, one's married.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. With that, I think we're going to go. Yep.
Council member reports.
Okay. Councilmember report. Councilmember Nash.
So for the Stanford GUP, there is going to be a really important meeting to get people out in Palo Alto on October 22nd at 6 p.m. in City Hall. and this will be to the Board of Supervisors. They had their first meeting with the Board of Supervisors today in San Jose. I attended. It was very well. There were many, many participants from San Mateo County, which is what we're trying to do. And this one is in Palo Alto, so we would really like to get the word out that for people to come. The other report I have is last week I was at the Grand Boulevard Initiative, and the group is reorganizing, and it's not totally clear at this point, but essentially the task force that has been in effect will no longer be meeting quarterly, and instead there will be annual convenings on special topics, and there will be El Camino Real Mobility Working Committee that will meet quarterly that I believe is going to be city staff. But all of this is still to come. But essentially it's going to morph into a different group, still with the same players, but they thought it was time to make some changes. Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, any other councilmember reports? No, I think it's great that we have the sister cities coming. I just blanked that we had one. So, okay, with that, nothing further tonight. Meeting's adjourned.